Present us, O Lord, in all our doings with thy most gracious favor, and further us with thy continual help, that in all our works, begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally by thy mercy attain everlasting life. Amen. Introduction of guests. I recognize the member from Lumsden Morris.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask for an extended introduction.
Members requested leave for an extended introduction. Is leave granted?
Mr. Speaker, to you and through you, it is my pleasure to introduce a very special guest coming in right now and seated in your gallery. Joining us today from Parkbeg, Saskatchewan, in the very center of my constituency, is a very famous member of the Saskatchewan Rough Rider team, Gaynor the Gopher. Now, normally, us farmers tend to look at gophers as a bit of a pest that we need to get under control. But I think Gaynor tends and will get a pass from farmers across the province. We actually want him to be a big pest that gets under the skin of the boys from BC. Please. Mr. Speaker, Gaynor has joined us today to officially sign a proclamation proclaiming tomorrow, Friday, November the 7th, as Green and White Day in Saskatchewan. We're encouraging residents around the province to wear their best green and white tomorrow in lead up to this weekend's Western final against the BC Lions. Thanks for making the journey to the Legislature today, Gaynor, to help us promote this exciting day. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is probably the only time I'll do this. But I ask all members to join me in welcoming this very special and beloved gopher to our Legislative Assembly. And traveling today with our beloved gopher is Mr. Craig Reynolds, President and Chief Executive Officer, celebrating his 10th year in that role right now. A good Saskatchewan boy from Foam Lake. He's been with the Riders in the CFO position since 2009, and then took on the role as Executive Director and President in March 1st of 2015. And under his excellent involvement with the Riders, we've seen record profits and a solid financial footing. He chaired the Operations Committee for the 2013 home turf win, and thank you for that. I was there with 2 generations of McLeod brothers. It was awesome to be able to experience that. And then your involvement in bringing our new Mosaic Stadium. All that you've done for Saskatchewan, we thank you so terribly much. And I invite all members to welcome these 2 fine guests to our Legislative Assembly today.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great pleasure, and I couldn't have imagined having had Gaynor the Gopher in our presence here today. We really look forward to, especially my colleagues on this side, so many of us are going to the game on Saturday. We look forward to you driving back and forth on the field after 6 or 7 touchdowns, probably before the end of the 3rd quarter. So with that, I would at first like everyone to get excited and welcome Gaynor the Gopher to his Legislative Assembly. And while I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, I would also like to thank Craig Reynolds for all the work that he's done with the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. He's been a part of winning the Grey Cup with the Rough Riders. He's ready to help us get there. Not this weekend, but when the Grey Cup's hosted in Winnipeg. We're really looking forward to bringing our 5th Grey Cup back to the province of Saskatchewan. And with that, please welcome Craig Reynolds from the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Do I sit down or keep going? And while I'm on my feet, I didn't know there was going to be this many guests here today. Seated in the East Gallery is Megan Kardash. Megan Kardash is also known on social media as Sneakers and Lipstick. She's a constituent of mine in Saskatoon Stonebridge, and I will be providing a member statement on Megan later on. I will say in my member statement, it doesn't say that she was actually a fairly well-known musician with Junior Panthers, an independent band in the early 2000s, and I certainly wish that I had the opportunity to be in a band like that, as well known as Junior Panthers. So with that, I'll provide more remarks on Megan later. Please welcome her to her Legislative Assembly. I still have one more.
Same thing else.
And while I'm on my feet, I'll also welcome, much more briefly, my mom, Marge Warrington, who's brought a guest with her today, Mike Nasachuk. Mike Nasachuk was my grade 8 teacher, and it's interesting when you go back and think about all of the activities and things that each teacher provided for us when we were in school. A few notable ones, he taught us about different cultures of the world by creating our own country. He had us study different events in Canadian history, and for whatever reason, that was the 1967 Toronto Maple Leafs, so that was the last time I really looked into them. He also taught us a game called Petals Around the Rose, and I look forward to sharing that with all of my, I have shared it with my students over the years. If you want to learn more about the game, I'll teach you after. Well, he could teach it a little bit better than me, but thank you for all that you did in Maringo, Saskatchewan, Westcliff Composite School. You are a truly great teacher, and people look back very fondly on the memories and the learning that you provided for them. Please welcome to the Legislative Assembly, Marge Warrington and Mike Nasachuk.
Recognize the Minister of Energy and Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would request leave for an extended introduction.
Minister's requested leave for an extended introduction. Is leave granted?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I would like to welcome some wonderful industry partners to their legislature. These esteemed guests are here today to witness the first reading of some legislation after question period. Seated in your gallery, Mr. Speaker, we have guests from the Mosaic Company, Nutrien, don't see BHP, and the Saskatchewan Mining Association. From Mosaic Company, we have Marnell Jones, Director of Government and Public Affairs Canada, Mosaic; Jeremy Brick, Manager, Government and Stakeholder Relations, Mosaic. From Nutrien, we have Craig Funk, Director of Geoservices and Land; Jody Dirkatch, Senior Manager, Land and Resource. And I don't see Aaron McCrae from BHP, but he was the...
He's right there.
Oh, okay, sorry. BHP, we have Aaron McCrae, Principal Land Management, Potash. And from the Saskatchewan Mining Association, we have Pam Swan, the President of the Saskatchewan Mining Association. Mr. Speaker, I would just like to thank all these industry partners on behalf of myself as the Minister of Energy and Resources, and on behalf of the government, for their collaboration, support on helping to develop this very important legislation, which will help keep Saskatchewan safe, strong, and secure. So I ask all members to join me in welcoming these very important industry leaders to their Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the member from Regina University.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to join the minister opposite in welcoming these fine representatives of our mining industry to this, their legislature. The mining industry is obviously so important to everything we do here in Saskatchewan, for the good jobs it creates, potash for the crops that it grows. So to Pam, Marnell, Jeremy, Craig, Jody and Aaron, thank you so much for being here today with the legislature. I would like to say a special thank you to Marnell and the folks at Mosaic. Myself and many of my colleagues here just a couple of weeks ago had a really fantastic fantastic tour, 1 kilometer underground at the mine in Esterhazy at K3. It was really incredible to be able to see that critical resource from the source and being developed from start to finish. And we really appreciate you always making the time for us here in the official opposition and sharing your wisdom and thoughts with us. So I asked all members to join me in welcoming the members of our mining industry here today.
I recognize the member from Richmond-Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to take a moment and introduce a group of visitors, a special group of visitors in the West Gallery today. Jason Grieve and the students from Montmartre School. Montmartre's a wonderful community in my riding. I always have fun when I go to Montmartre. I talked to a lot of students there this summer. I was there at the opening of the new pool and water slides in Montmartre, which is a great new facility in that community. And I just want to welcome them here today, and I just hope that I know all the answers to the questions that they're going to ask me later on. And you know, I was thinking that might be the highlight for them, but I can tell from when they walked in that the highlight was seeing that Gaynor's in the house today. So I could see their expressions when he came in. So through you, Mr. Speaker, I ask all the members of the House to welcome the students from Montmartre School to their Legislative Assembly. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Centre.
Request leave for an extended introduction.
Members requested leave for an extended introduction. Is leave granted?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to welcome some special guests to the legislature. It's always wonderful when my relatives are able to come to the legislature. And it's also such an honor for me to introduce my niece, who I'll be talking about later in my member statement, Brenda Reynolds. I'll be introducing her or saying more about her, but I just want to you and through you, I'd like to welcome the following guests to their legislature. My nephew, Dr. Bob Casius, and of course Brenda, who we'll be talking about later, her husband, Robert Buckle, Chris Lewing, Kennedy Page Q-Step, Nate Q-Step, and the chief from Fishing Lake First Nation and his council. I'm so grateful that they came down here to join me when I do my member statement. I'm excited to talk about the extraordinary work in my member statement. So I ask all members to join me in welcoming these folks to their legislature. And while I'm on Mr. Speaker, and while I'm on my feet, I would also like to welcome my dedicated CA, Kate Grey Eyes. She has come and helped me during the election, and a few years ago became a Canadian citizen. So I'm just so grateful to have her here to work with me and to get the stuff done that needed to get done for this special day. So I ask all members to help me in welcoming these folks to their legislature.
I recognize the member from Kelvington-Wadena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to welcome Chief and Council from Fishing Lake. It was just a few weeks ago. I had the great pleasure of going out and having a good visit with them. We discussed their amazing highway project that was just finished. It's going to help travel to their school, to the reservation, and to the folks down at the lake as well. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Regina Rochdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome two guests that are seated in your gallery today. They're pillars of childcare provision here in Regina. First one is Charlene Third, and she is the director at the Childcare Co-op here in Regina. 138 spaces, and you'll never guess how many years, 62. I'd also like to welcome Jennifer Coster. She is the provider and director at Solid Futures as well. They have 50 spaces ranging from 18 months to 12 years, and they've been in operation for 36 years, being so helpful with childcare provision here so parents can get back to work and know that the children are having fun and learning at the same time. So I invite everyone to help me recognize these wonderful gals and the work that they do and continue to do for the children of our province.
I recognize the member from White City, Capel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To you and through you in those top three rows, I'm super excited to welcome 39 high school students in the law class from Greenhill High School in Balgonie. If you guys could give us a wave. And as I see them there, sitting there, Mr. Speaker, I'm reminded of two things. I think we're in great hands. I look forward to some great questions. And I also should have bought shares in the ice cream that I'm about to share with them. But I also want to just acknowledge Miss Marley and Miss Shainroth, who are here with them. I've had the privilege of being in Miss Marley's class a few times, and the environment I talked about, Mr. Speaker, the other day in my response to the throne speech, Miss Marley is an incredible teacher, incredible at creating an environment where our young people just love to learn. I've had parents talk to me, students talk to me, just an incredible, incredible asset as one of our teachers. So thank you, Miss Marley and Miss Shainroth, for all your work in creating those great environments. Also excited, Mr. Speaker, to talk about the $24.5 million expansion that's going to be taking place here at Greenhill coming up, and modernization, and I look forward to meeting with these students after question period, and I would just ask everyone to join me in welcoming them to their Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave for an extended introduction.
Members requested leave for an extended introduction. Is leave granted?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And how lucky are we this morning to have so many distinguished guests joining us here in the galleries. I'd like to just briefly join with the members who have already spoken in welcoming all of the guests here to their Legislative Assembly. Pam Swan with the Saskatchewan Mining Association and the leaders in the potash industry here in this province, Mr. Speaker. Also would like to join in welcoming the Chief and Council from Fishing Lake First Nation and the delegation here to celebrate. And I can't wait for that member's statement to celebrate the achievements and contributions of Brenda Reynolds here later from the member from Saskatoon Centre. I would like to also welcome all of the students and teachers that are here and join with them. I just looked over and saw that the Pride of Park bag has left the gallery, Mr. Speaker, but also very excited to be able to welcome Craig Reynolds and Gaynor the Gopher here. But I've got some special guests as well, Mr. Speaker, that I'd like to introduce who haven't been introduced yet, and I've been looking forward to being able to welcome them to this Legislative Assembly, and that is a delegation, Mr. Speaker, seated in your gallery from the giant of Africa. From Nigeria, our distinguished visitors joining us today are from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and we have with us today Professor Simon Ochena Ortwana. He's the Vice Chancellor at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. We also have, Mr. Speaker, Victoria Princess Ayejina, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, my pronunciation, the lead coordinator for the International Partnership. And we also have June Chebe Chine O Uno, who is the president of the Michael Okpara Leadership and Entrepreneurship Center at the Institute of African Studies. And also, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Chidi Igwe. Chidi is a Regina resident and provides local support to the delegation. He's also a marketing and communications manager at Le Cité here at the University of Regina, where he's also, in addition to teaching, a research associate, Mr. Speaker. Now, their visit here today, the roots of this visit go back to 2023, and a University of Regina delegation led by La Cité, which visited Ghana, Mali, and Nigeria to recruit international students and establish academic partnerships between the two between institutions. And it was a very fruitful mission, Mr. Speaker. Out of that, we saw over 20 memoranda of understanding signed with universities in those countries, of course, including with Nigeria. This delegation, led by their Vice Chancellor and 2 senior colleagues, are visiting Regina this week, Mr. Speaker, and I know that they will have a wonderful time here in Regina. They're going to be signing a new memorandum of understanding with the University of Regina. Amongst the goals of that MOU are to strengthen academic collaboration, establish student and faculty exchanges, and really just promote stronger ties between our two countries that both have found strength in the diversity in our two countries. And it is my honor to be able to welcome these distinguished guests, and I invite all members to join with me and welcome these guests to this Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the Minister of Advanced Education.
Hear, hear. Well, thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. With great pleasure, I'd like to join the Leader of the Opposition in welcoming our friends and our guests from Nigeria, a wonderful country that has so many residents that have come from Nigeria to Saskatchewan to make their home. They're part of our economy, our growing economy, and they're part of our education system. And certainly they bring a wealth of knowledge to advanced education. I had a chance last month to be at the Nigeria welcoming party in Saskatoon, and they have an interesting way of doing things. When they dance, it's incumbent upon those watching the dancers to throw money at their feet. So I saw some very large bills going that way, and they had a lot of fun, and maybe something that we could adapt as well. But you know, in light of the difficulties that are coming from the federal government, it is incumbent upon us to have these bilateral relationships, and thank you to the University of Regina and these individuals for leading the way. There'll be more to come. Thank you. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Regina Pasqua.
Mr. Speaker, through you and to you, I will also join with the Leader of Opposition and Minister for Advanced Education and welcoming the students us from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. And I also want to welcome my friend, Dr. Chidi, who is also my constituents. I ask all members, please join me in welcoming them to their Legislative Assembly. Thank you.
Well, in Canada, we'd say I got scooped by the 2 members for introducing our friends from Nigeria. And I just wanted to add to all the introductions and welcomes. I had a chance to sit down with these 4 men and have some discussions. And it says a lot when you can ask a question of someone, not, you know, what's your title, what's your role, what are you doing, but when you ask a person what drives you. And, you know, we have some students in the gallery today and some leaders from different places. But the answer that I got from these men today made me more excited that they're here in Canada than just another delegation coming. And the answer clearly from these men is that servant leadership drives us to leave their country, come to Canada, forge relationships. And I think that that's the perspective from this country as well. So there's a lot of root values that are the same from our countries. We're glad to have you here today, and we pray for fruitful meetings as you meet with the U of R later today, and as you head back to your country. We hope that you know, the citizens of Saskatchewan that grew up in Nigeria or have Nigerian roots, we pray for their success in this country as well. So thank you for being here with us today. I'm not sure if you're allowed to mention birthdays, but I have in my office, or in my group, a fairly special birthday today, Iris. I won't say how old she is, but there's cupcakes in the office behind the hidden room here. And so Diff also... Diff shares a birthday with Iris, so we get to give Diff a shout out too as well. So, but anyways, with that, we'll move on to presenting petitions. I recognize the member from Regina Pasqua. Or sorry, not from Regina, Regina University. So. Welcome to Saskatchewan, where the speaker can't even figure out. I recognize the member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present our petition calling for the government to save our swales. The undersigned here want to bring to our attention that the Ministry of Highways plans to build a 4-lane high-speed highway around and through Saskatoon, expanding into 8 lanes through the northeast swale and 10 lanes through the small swale. The northeast and the small swales contain rare fescue grasslands and high-quality wetlands supporting endangered, threatened, and other native species. They are vital parts of our shared provincial and our regional natural heritage. I'll read the prayer. We, in the prayer that reads as follows, respectfully request that the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the provincial government to, number 1, suspend planning for the Saskatoon Freeway and development around the northeast and the small swales until a regional cumulative effects assessment has been completed. Secondly, update the Wildlife Act and expand the list of wild species protected by provincial legislation. Number 3, recognize the northeast and small swales as important ecological habitat and designate them as protected areas. And fourthly, ensure adequate long-term funding for research, management, and enforcement to protect the northeast and small swales for generations to come. The petition is signed by residents from Saskatoon. I do so present.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Southeast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Community-Based Organization Worker Appreciation Day, I am pleased to rise to present a petition to the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan to fix the funding crisis in the disability service sector and for community-based organizations. The undersigned residents of the province of Saskatchewan wish to bring to your attention the following. The disability service sector faces a funding crisis that threatens the CBO workforce, stability, and ability to provide essential services due to the underfunding of transportation, meals, technology, and maintenance. That the Ministry of Social Services funds CBOs for benefits at approximately 16% of salary funding, and that this rate has remained relatively unchanged for 20 years. I shall now read the prayer. We, in the prayer that reads as follows, respectfully request the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the Government of Saskatchewan to commit to a 3-year funding plan that strengthens CBO capacity, stabilizes the sector, while simultaneously collaborating with CBOs on a job analysis for the disability service sector, as well as a full review of the operational funding standards to ensure adequate funding for areas including, but not limited to, transportation, maintenance, technology, food, insurance, and audit. The undersigned residents reside in Weyburn, Saskatchewan. I do so present.
Reading and receiving petitions, statements by members. I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to be on my feet to celebrate one of Saskatoon's most creative and vibrant voices, Megan Kardash. Known to many as Sneakers and Lipstick. A proud mom, wife, and Stonebridge resident, Megan has become a beloved presence on social media with tens of thousands of followers. Through her platforms, she shines a bright light on our province, from family-friendly festivals and local makers to the rich culture, heritage, and joy that makes Saskatchewan such a great place to live. Online, she shares stories of local creators, favorite recipes, and her reflections on life as a mom, writer, and stylist. She's served as key wardrobe on countless music videos, national commercials, and even co-produced the television show Nightclub Confidential. A quote from Megan to understand her style and presence. Ever finally have 5 minutes to get ready but would rather spend that time reading one last story to your kiddo or eating leftover pizza from the fridge? Hey, me too. But my grandma always said, even an old barn looks better with a little paint. So I always keep a tube of lipstick in the car. Megan Kardash is quite simply a creative force blending authenticity, humor, and heart into everything she touches. Through sneakers and lipstick, she continues to inspire and uplift Saskatoon and Saskatchewan, one story, one style, and one smile at a time. Give her a follow on Instagram and Facebook. You won't regret it. Please join me in recognizing Megan's contribution to her city and province.
I recognize the member from Prince Albert Carleton. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to rise today to recognize the many workers employed by community-based organizations in our province and the positive impact they have in their communities. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Saskatchewan partners with hundreds of service providers across the province to deliver a wide range of services to Saskatchewan people and their families. These services would not be possible without the hard work and dedication of their workers. These employees make a difference every day in the lives of so many of our citizens, including individuals and families in crisis, people living with disabilities, children and young people who have experienced abuse and neglect. CBO Worker Appreciation Day gives us the opportunity to formally recognize the commitment and dedication CBO employees demonstrate all year long. Whether working in a group home or a day program setting, supporting families to care for their children, or providing a safe, warm, and secure place for people experiencing homelessness, CBO workers help to deliver much-needed programs and services. On behalf of the Government of Saskatchewan, I ask my colleagues to join me in extending our appreciation for the exemplary work done every day. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Centre.
Miigwech, Mr. Speaker. I rise with deep pride to honour an extraordinary woman whose courage, wisdom, and unwavering commitment to justice have rippled across the globe. Brenda Reynolds, a proud First Nation band member from Fishing Lake First Nation, rooted in Treaty 4 territory, has made history as the first Indigenous person in the world to be awarded the United Nations Nelson Mandela Prize. Her voice, her leadership, and her truth have touched hearts and stirred action far beyond our borders. Brenda's work is grounded in the lived realities of her people. She has stood firm in the face of injustice, spoken truth to power, and carried the weight of generations with grace and fire. Her recognition is not just a personal achievement, it's a victory for all Indigenous peoples, and especially for Indigenous women, who are the backbone of our communities, our families, and our movements. We must celebrate our citizens when they rise, when they lead, and when they break barriers. Brenda Reynolds has done all three. Her legacy will inspire our daughters, our granddaughters, and every young person who dreams of a world where peace is rooted in truth and justice. In partnership with her nation, we will hold a reception this afternoon to celebrate and honour her remarkable achievement. Mr. Speaker, I ask all members to join me in congratulating and thanking Brenda for all her work and dedication in speaking truth while serving her people.
Mr. Speaker, Foam Lake has always been a place where neighbours look out for one another, where kindness and community spirit are not just ideas, but a way of life. And no one embodies that spirit better than Painter Al, Mr. Al Kowalchuk. For decades, every Halloween, children across town have made their way to Al's house, knowing they'll be met with a smile, a laugh, and some of the best treats you'll find anywhere. Awesome. It has become a beloved tradition, part of what it means to grow up in Foam Lake, a memory that lingers on even after the costumes are put away. This year, the Foam Lake Volunteer Fire Department decided it was time to return the favor. They raised $1,500 to present to Painter Al as a thank you, not only for the candy, but for the kindness, generosity, and joy he's shared with the community year after year. Mr. Speaker, what makes Foam Lake truly special is not just the place, but the people and neighbors who lift one another up and celebrate those who give so freely of themselves. Thank you, Painter Al, for reminding us all what community spirit truly means. You've painted not only houses, but memories, and you've colored the Foam Lake community with joy, gratitude, and pride. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Regina South Albert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to share my gratitude for the extraordinary welcome that I received during a tour of Ontario's nuclear industry. From the uranium mined in the north to the power that lights up homes across the world, Saskatchewan is central to Canada and the planet's nuclear story. That's why it was such an honor to meet with workers and leaders who are building the future of clean, reliable energy. I want to sincerely thank Cameco, the Society of United Professionals, BWXT, McMaster University, OPG, and Bruce Power for rolling out the yellow cake carpet for me. Their openness, expertise, and vision were on full display, and it was clear that Saskatchewan uranium is building such prosperity in Ontario. Nuclear energy is, of course, about more than just electrons on the grid. It's about jobs, research, and ensuring Canada's energy security for generations to come. It's why we're proud of our rock-to-reactor strategy, building generational wealth and expertise right here in Saskatchewan. I look forward to continuing the conversation on how Saskatchewan can not only supply uranium, but also share in the innovation and value that nuclear brings to this country and the world.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Dakota Arm River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's another great day in Saskatchewan, and hopefully this weekend will be a great one for our Saskatchewan Rough Riders as they take on the BC Lions at Mosaic Stadium in front of over 30,000 Wild fans. BC secured their ticket to the final with a close victory over the Stampeders last weekend, and this will be their third time in the last 4 seasons that they've made it this far into the playoffs. The last time the Riders and the Lions played was in late October, which ended in a Lions victory, unfortunately, to break a streak of losses against our Rough Riders. Mr. Speaker, this is shaping up to be one of the best football matchups this playoffs. The winner of the Western Final will take on either the Hamilton Tiger Cats or the Montreal Alouettes for the Grey Cup in Winnipeg. On behalf of the Legislative Assembly, we want to wish best of luck to the Riders in the Western Final. We are all in for this game, a great game of football. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Carrot River Valley.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to share the story of Mr. Bill Crawford. Bill, who is 100 years old, is the only living World War II veteran in Carrot River. Last week, Bill received the first poppy from the Legion in recognition of his service. Bill was born in January 1925, and his family moved to Carrot River area in 1932. When the war broke out, Bill joined the effort as soon as he was able and served with the Canadian Airborne Division, training in Canada before going overseas in 1943 for further training and to await his unit's deployment. However, the war ended. Bill notes that even though the war was over, it still took a year to get home. Once back in Canada, Bill farmed, married the love of his life, Edith, and raised a family. Carrot River Legion President Bill Clancy had this to say, quote, "Bill is quite a hero in Carrot River. He never assumes the worst in people. Rather, he looks for the good, which he says is in all of us. Like many of our World War II heroes, Bill does not like to talk about the war years, but it is truly a pleasure to listen to Bill tell the stories of life on the farm when there was a family on every quarter," end quote. Mr. Speaker, I ask all members to recognize Mr. Crawford's service as a World War II veteran and thank him for his years of contribution to his community, province, and country.
Question period. I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, every day this session, this Sask Party government has failed to acknowledge, let alone offer any relief to the growing number of Saskatchewan people who are falling further and further behind. Like it or not, Mr. Speaker, the numbers don't lie. Today, the Moose Jaw Food Bank is reporting a 150% increase to food bank usage in that city over the last 4 years alone. The rate of seniors, Mr. Speaker, using the food bank has doubled. The rate of new Canadians also doubled. Working families up 62%, and the number of students using that food bank, Mr. Speaker, is up a whopping 75%. All of this proves one thing, that more and more people in this province can't afford to put food on the table. Mr. Speaker, will the Premier continue to ignore this fact, or is he going to do something about it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And affordability was very much a central plank in our campaign in the election that happened just over a year ago, Mr. Speaker. It was a central plank in our speech from the throne post that election, and it was a central plank in the budget, Mr. Speaker, that was introduced this last fall, was for us to ensure that Saskatchewan remains the most affordable province in the nation of Canada, Mr. Speaker. Each and every year leading up to that budget, about $2 billion in affordability measures that are present in each and every budget year, Mr. Speaker. That is why I think Saskatchewan continues to be ranked as the most affordable province in the nation of Canada. Mr. Speaker, that budget raised that number to $2.5 billion, Mr. Speaker, and we made sure that with the initiatives that we campaigned on and delivered on in that budget, that they were going to touch and impact families from corner to corner in the province of Saskatchewan. Notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, we as Canadians in a very tumultuous time yet today are experiencing inflationary pressures in this province like other Canadians, Mr. Speaker. This is a government that is securing our future by ensuring we have a strong economy, Mr. Speaker, and securing our future by investing the strength of that economy right back into the ability for this province to be the most affordable place in Canada today as well as tomorrow.
I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, food bank usage in Moose Jaw is up 150% in 4 years, and we have a Premier who's telling people in this province how affordable things are. Mr. Speaker, I do not know who he's talking to, because the people that we talk to tell us every day that they're working harder and harder, but they're falling further and further behind. And Mr. Speaker, I don't know if he doesn't understand or if he doesn't care, but we believe them. And he shouldn't be surprised, Mr. Speaker. During his time in office, Saskatchewan has seen the second lowest in the entire country rate of wage growth. And any increases to those wages, Mr. Speaker, have been more than eaten up by their taxes on kids' clothing and groceries. Mr. Speaker, costs are going up, wages are down, but the Premier continues to spin those tired lines. Will he quit, Mr. Speaker, and admit that he's done anything but make life more affordable for Saskatchewan people?
Hear, hear. I recognize the Premier.
I'm not sure where the Leader of the Opposition's data is coming from, but this past year, the wage growth in this province, Mr. Speaker, was up 3.3%. That's above the national average, Mr. Speaker. Notwithstanding the challenges that we know, the inflationary challenges that Canadian and Saskatchewan families are facing in what is a very uncertain time today, Mr. Speaker. This is not a Premier or a government that stands up in any way and diminishes those challenges. This is a government, Mr. Speaker, that uses the strength of our economy to secure families' future by investing in Saskatchewan remaining to be the most affordable province in the nation of Canada. And that is true today, Mr. Speaker, and with the investments that were made and commitments made in the last election, Mr. Speaker, in which this government was elected, and then delivered on in the Minister of Finance's budget this last year, Mr. Speaker, that is going to be the case tomorrow. Saskatchewan will remain the most affordable province in the nation of Canada into our future, Mr. Speaker. We're only able to do that by ensuring that we continue to grow and strengthen the Saskatchewan economy to provide those jobs and those opportunities for our children and our grandchildren in this province, Mr. Speaker. Notwithstanding the inflationary challenges that we're seeing, Mr. Speaker, in a very tariff-ridden, trade-restricted environment around the world, Mr. Speaker. We're seeing that inflation. Families are seeing that inflation. And this is a government that is committed, Mr. Speaker, to working hard to ensure that we are representing and investing in those families and in the very communities where they live.
Hear, hear, hear. I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.
For the Premier's benefit, Mr. Speaker, my data comes from Statistics Canada, but he fails to acknowledge that. He fails to acknowledge the reality of Saskatchewan people. This is a government that, after 18 years, is also failing to take the issue of illegal foreign farmland ownership seriously.
Right.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor and SARM have both sounded the alarm when it comes to the wide gaps in the system that's supposed to ensure that only Canadians can buy Saskatchewan farmland. Will the Premier finally admit what most people on Coffee Row already understand, and that is that his government has failed to ensure that foreign farmland ownership, that those foreign interests can't buy up Saskatchewan farmland?
Speaker, I've just been informed that the Leader of the Opposition actually is on X, on Elon Musk's platform, Mr. Speaker, has put out some information that indicates that Saskatchewan had the second highest wage growth in the nation of Canada this past year by the very data that the Leader of the Opposition has put out, Mr. Speaker. More work to do, but I think an indication, Mr. Speaker, that the effort and the investment that is arriving in the potash industry in this province, Mr. Speaker, is creating jobs for Saskatchewan people. The effort and the deals that we see in the uranium industry, Mr. Speaker, with Cameco's ownership of Westinghouse and the reactors that they are going to be building in North America, Mr. Speaker, are going to be creating jobs in the province of Saskatchewan. We're going to be investing in using the strength of that economy, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that this remains an affordable place and the most affordable place in Canada. When it comes to representing farmers, Mr. Speaker, and landowners in this province, most certainly, as recently as today, Mr. Speaker, you are seeing increases in the stringency on ownership in this province, but you can ensure, as per the auditor's recommendations, Mr. Speaker, and there is an ongoing discussion in a committee that is going to be engaging with owners to ensure that we have this right all the time in this province, Mr. Speaker, because this is a government that is always going to represent, always going to listen to, Mr. Speaker, our landowners, our ag community, Mr. Speaker, from corner to corner in this province. That work is being done by this ag minister, Mr. Speaker, and it will continue to be done on an ongoing basis, Mr. Speaker, because this is always the province that will have the back of Saskatchewan farmers. Hear, hear.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, that government has been more than a day late on enforcing the illegal purchase of farmland by foreign entities, Mr. Speaker. We've been calling on that government from the moment they've been elected, and they look the other way and have failed to enforce the law. There's so much more that we need to do. The Farmland Security Board needs more resources and real teeth. The fines for breaking the law need to be more than a slap on the wrist. And importantly, that government must audit and enforce the divestiture of land acquired and owned by foreign entities that have breached the law and caused the forfeiture of profit in its divestiture. No foreign entity, governments like China or criminal organizations, should be able to profit off the illegal purchase of Saskatchewan farmland. Why has this government failed so badly for so long in illegal foreign ownership? Why have they sold out the hardworking and proud producers of Saskatchewan?
As per the auditor's recommendation and the work and what this Minister of Agriculture and our Ministry of Agriculture has heard from Saskatchewan producers, we are moving when the organization looks at those purchases to the front end of the purchase as opposed to being on a reported basis. I would say this, some very serious accusations coming across the floor of this Legislative Assembly, Mr. Speaker, and I would say that if the critic, Mr. Speaker, the opposition critic, has an example of where he, in his words, says that the government of China, the People's Republic of China, or Chinese citizens are owning farmland in Saskatchewan, that he report that immediately through the Minister of Agriculture's office, Mr. Speaker. And he says foreigners are owning farmland in the province of Saskatchewan. I would ask that he do the right thing on behalf of Saskatchewan people and report that immediately through the Minister of Agriculture's office, Mr. Speaker. All of those transactions will be looked at the front end, not the back end, Mr. Speaker, as per the recommendations from the auditor, Mr. Speaker. And I would just say this once again. This is a government, and each of these members are members, Mr. Speaker, representing rural Saskatchewan and Saskatchewan farmers. We will always have their back, Mr. Speaker. Let's see if these reports, these accusations come through, and let's see if the critic has the back of Saskatchewan farmers across this province.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
We've brought those concerns of producers to this Premier and the one before and ministers time and time again over the last 18 years, and they've dropped the ball, Mr. Speaker. They've also dropped the ball with respect to needed supports for those producers that have been devastated by drought. We've met with and toured devastation, crops burnt and feed non-existent. And they can, heckle and chuckle. Very proud, multi-generation producers that are in a dire situation, Mr. Speaker. The SARM Regional Director joined us with local RMs and producers as well in September in Golden Prairie, and they're also calling for action. SARM President Bill Huber wrote to the minister, quote, "To date, the provincial government has not established meaningful long-term drought support or implemented substantive changes that producers so desperately need." End quote. Why are they leaving the producers that have been hardest hit high and dry without the support they deserve?
Hear, hear. I recognize the Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has always been there for our producers. We will continue to be so. This year, producers had $12 billion in coverage through the crop insurance program alone. We know this program supports producers. It has paid out over $7 billion in the last 4 years. Mr. Speaker, we will always be there for our hardworking producers of Saskatchewan.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, that minister should know that what he's announced does nothing for those that have been hardest hit, Mr. Speaker. He promised to do more, and he's done nothing. We've worked with those producers that have been hardest hit, those RMs that have declared an emergency throughout this year, their 9th year of drought. And together we've called for action and support. We've called on the provincial and federal governments to step up with emergency supports to impacted producers, to fix crop insurance and business risk management programs going into the growing season ahead to ensure producers have the backstop they need and deserve, and much more. But that government, despite saying they would help, has done nothing in face of this dire situation and the very serious problems and challenges these producers in this region face. How can that government just simply look the other way?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have been responsive to producers' challenges this year. We extended the agri-stability enrollment deadline, increased the compensation rate, and doubled the payment cap, Mr. Speaker. We implemented the double low-yield appraisal and the Crown grazing lease reduction program. And every year, Saskatchewan producers are tax-exempt on $500 million in agriculture imports and fuel. Mr. Speaker, the lost and reckless NDPs have no credibility on this matter. We have listened to the member from Regina Mount Royal in 2021. We would have reduced the crop insurance reserve, and I quote, "We're in a situation of serious excess. Right now, the reserves that are there are about $2.2 billion. Maybe there needs to be some serious review as to what's the best way to treat those dollars. The province is just cobby news." Mr. Speaker, those are there to support the producers. Those reserves were there to support the producers, and I'm glad those reserves were there, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
As member from Regina Mount Royal.
Well, he's right that government shorted producers on the returns they deserved at that time as well, Mr. Speaker, but these calls aren't just coming from the Saskatchewan NDP. They're coming from SARM. They're coming from RMs like Big Stick and producers in the Southwest. And the member from Cypress Hills knows this full well. And those supports that have been announced have done nothing for those producers dealing with 9 years of drought. I'll read again from Bill Huber, president of SARM's letter to that minister. "We implore the government of Saskatchewan to provide immediate and sustained action to ensure the viability of farming and ranching operations across the province. Producers are contending with rising input costs, harsher weather patterns, tighter federal regulations, and the ongoing trade disputes between Canada and other countries. Together, declining revenues and escalating expenses are placing unprecedented strain on farm families and the food production system. You know, that minister had promised action. He's done nothing for these producers. Multi-generation farms and livelihoods are at stake. Why won't this minister, this government, this premier step up and have the backs of producers in this province?
I recognize the Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have been very responsive to farmers, producers' challenges this year, Mr. Speaker. I must say we've been there. I was there on the ground with an MLA from Cyprus, and we were very responsive. Mr. Speaker, we have livestock price insurance. We have forage rainfall insurance. We are there for our producers time in and time out. We just don't show up for the photo ops, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon-Meewasin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I stand here today in support of Saskatchewan's workers' wages and their rights, Mr. Speaker. We know that far too many folks who work a full-time shift have to hit the food bank on their way home, Mr. Speaker. And next door in Alberta, we see the Premier's best friend, Danielle Smith, invoke the notwithstanding clause to take away the rights of workers, to collectively bargain, and impose a bogus contract on teachers. Mr. Speaker, the Premier's response to praise her. Unbelievable, Mr. Speaker. Will this Premier stand in this chamber today and commit here and now to never invoking the notwithstanding clause to trample the rights of Saskatchewan workers and hammer their wages?
I recognize the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a government that is putting students and families first in this province, Mr. Speaker, and this is not Alberta. You know, I'm happy to say, Mr. Speaker, that we have freshly come off a renegotiated collective bargaining agreement with the teachers in this province, Mr. Speaker, one where we continue to make sure that we're giving Saskatchewan students their best start in Saskatchewan schools, Mr. Speaker, record investments into education, whether it's operating, whether it's capital, Mr. Speaker, making sure that we are investing into things like K-3 literacy, Mr. Speaker, investing in the expansion of specialized support classrooms in this province, Mr. Speaker, and more dollars towards supports for learning, Mr. Speaker. That's what this government will continue to focus on to make sure that we're putting Saskatchewan students first in this province. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon-Meewasin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear to this House. No commitment from that government not to use the notwithstanding clause to impose a bogus contract agreement on workers right here in Saskatchewan. The point is to support teachers and our students. The only tool that any government needs to get a good deal is a bargaining table. We know this Premier always waits for his good buddy Danielle Smith to act first, and then he follows. And we know that right now in Alberta, the right to collectively bargain has been effectively eliminated. And we know that there are tens of thousands of workers right here in this province without a contract, working harder and harder every day and falling farther and farther behind. Will this Premier find his feet in this House right now? Will he tell us, is his plan to impose an illegal contract on Saskatchewan workers right here in the province?
Hear, hear. I recognize the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I said previously, that we're going to continue to put Saskatchewan students first, Mr. Speaker. And I'm grateful for the work that's been done, the relationship that we have with the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, Mr. Speaker. I meet with them regularly. As a matter of fact, I met with the President just a couple of weeks ago, as we often do, to talk about not just the challenges happening in Saskatchewan's classrooms, but also some of the successes as well, Mr. Speaker. And I think everyone in this province is united in wanting to make sure that we are doing the best that we can for Saskatchewan students. Again, to make sure that we are focusing on initiatives that help our kids to succeed, to make sure that students have every opportunity to succeed in the classroom, that they are, for example, through K-3 literacy initiatives, that they are learning to read, so by the time they're exiting grade 3, that they can then read to learn. Expanding into other areas, specialized support classrooms, Mr. Speaker, additional supports to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support teachers, support all the support staff that are in our education system, but most importantly, to support the students of this province, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. I recognize the member from Regina Wall Shakers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Healthcare in Saskatchewan is in full-blown disaster. This minister has had his job for a year now, and he's failed at every turn. The situation on the front lines has never been worse, and we've heard that day after day after day. We also hear that this health minister wants to be Saskatchewan's next premier. Are you kidding?
I don't see the question there.
How can the minister defend his record of failure on this file?
I recognize the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I often get the opportunity to rise in this House to talk about the most ambitious Health Human Resources Action Plan in the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report, I'm happy to share with this House, Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of that Health Human Resources Action Plan, Mr. Speaker, our chronic nursing vacancies in the Saskatchewan Health Authority are down 56%, Mr. Speaker. If we look at positions in rural and northern communities, nursing positions, those vacancies are down 64%, Mr. Speaker. This is exactly a result of taking administrative savings, creating enhanced new frontline positions, adding positions all across the province, Mr. Speaker, helped by adding 900 healthcare training seats over the last couple of years, Mr. Speaker. We're training more healthcare workers in the province. We're hiring more healthcare workers in this province, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to continue putting patients first.
I recognize the member from Cumberland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, we heard directly from a true Saskatchewan hero in Harley Vligenhart. He joins us here today in the Legislature as well. Harley was one of the 11 volunteer firefighters who stayed back to try to protect Denair Beach while the wolf fire raced towards their community. The community burned to the ground, and this Sask Party government made excuses for why there wasn't enough resources provided. But yesterday, the public safety minister actually had the audacity to say that Harley's story was made up and that there were countless resources sent to Denair. Will the minister commit to a meeting with Harley right after question period so that this Saskatchewan hero can set him straight?
I recognize the Minister of Police and Corrections and Public Safety.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'll once again welcome back Harley to his Legislative Assembly. And I will correct the record, Mr. Speaker. What the member from Cumberland just suggested that I said was not what I said, and I would encourage him to review the record to confirm that. Mr. Speaker, Harley is one of hundreds of brave men and women who fought forest fires across northern Saskatchewan this year, Mr. Speaker. Unprecedented forest fires with unprecedented responses, Mr. Speaker, from our brave men and women. I did misspeak yesterday when I said 34 municipal and volunteer fire departments fought forest fires this year, Mr. Speaker. It was 64. 64 municipal and volunteer fire departments responded. Over 1,000 brave men and women fought forest fires across northern Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. Our government has introduced unprecedented supports in response to that, helping these communities rebuild, Mr. Speaker. And as we rebuild alongside these communities, we are happy to make sure that we are doing so in a way that protects those communities in the future and that they have the confidence in their government and in their communities in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Cumberland.
Mr. Speaker, this minister was also responsible for water bombers that sat grounded on the tarmac while the north burned. We also have since heard allegations that he spent nearly $100 million too much on those bombers. And now we also hear rumors that he too, just like the health minister, wants to be the next premier of Saskatchewan. Seriously, are you kidding me?
I don't understand this line of... recognize the member from Saskatoon Centre.
Miigwech, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, too many people in this province can't access the mental health and addiction services they need. I hear this in the big cities, I hear this in rural communities, I even hear this in the minister's hometown of Estevan. Long waits to see a doctor, family physician, long waits for treatment, and no hope for our young people. We're losing people almost every day. One person is dying every single day. When will the Sask Party take this seriously? When will people be able to access the treatment they need when they are ready for help?
I recognize the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we've canvassed this topic several times throughout this session, last session, Mr. Speaker. Every death due to an overdose is a tragedy, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we are committed to recovery in this province. We have a goal of 500 additional spaces within this province. We're at just about 300 now, Mr. Speaker. Some of those spaces are in Estevan, Mr. Speaker. And I would remind the member opposite that those were actually replacement beds that the NDP closed when they had the privilege to serve in government. They were closing addiction spaces. They were not opening them. That is what this government is doing. We believe in recovery, and we will continue to work on our mental health and addictions action plan and open up those spaces for recovery so that people can live in a strong, safe and secure Saskatchewan.
Hear, hear, hear. Ministerial statements. Introduction of bills.
Item number 1, Minister MacLeod.
I recognize the Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Bill number 34, the Cyber Stalking and Coercive Control Act, be now introduced and read a first time.
It's been moved by the Minister of Justice that Bill number 34, the Cyber Stalking and Coercive Control Act, be now introduced and read a first time. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
First reading of this bill.
When shall this bill be read a second time?
Next sitting of the Assembly, Mr. Speaker.
Next sitting.
Item number 2, Minister Young.
I recognize the Minister of Energy and Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Bill number 35, the Mineral Resources Amendment Act 2025, be now introduced and read a first time.
It has been moved by the Minister of Energy and Resources that Bill number 35, the Mineral Resources Amendment Act 2025, be now introduced and read a first time. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
First reading of this bill.
When shall this bill be read a second time?
Next sitting of the Assembly.
Next sitting. Presenting reports by standing and special committee. At this point, I have a few documents to table. I am tabling an addendum to Sessional Paper 119, and I am also tabling an addendum to Sessional Paper 273. Orders of the day.
75-minute debate. MLA Hauser to move.
I recognize the member from Regina University.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise today to enter into this 75-minute debate. Following my remarks, I will be moving the following motion: that the Assembly calls upon the government to strengthen protections to prevent illegal foreign farmland ownership and address the concerns that have been identified by the Provincial Auditor, the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities and Agricultural Producers, and condemns the Sask Party government for its years of inaction on this issue. And before I get started, Mr. Speaker, I want to give a special credit and shout out to my colleague from Regina, Mount Royal, who has been absolutely dogged on this issue for as long as I knew him, long before I was an elected official. This is something he would bring up with me. I know that in this legislature, it is something that he has spoken about numerous times. And he and our leader have been to all four corners of this province for years now, but really even specifically over the course of this summer, meeting with producers, meeting with various different agricultural organizations, and in addition to the challenges that they hear about the impact of tariffs on getting our product to market, on the impacts of some of the severe droughts we've seen in different parts of this province. The third thing that comes up most frequently from producers is this issue of foreign ownership. And it's the reason that the member from Regina Mount Royal has been so steadfast in the support. It's not because the issue is being fixed, it's because it is still a problem. And yes, we do have legislation in place. We do have the Farm Security Act. But Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, a law is only good as the tools that are given to enforce that law. And that is the major issue we are talking about here today. In this motion that we're going to debate, we're pushing for the Sask Party government to enforce the law and crack down on illegal foreign farmland ownership. And you heard the Premier today say again that this wasn't a problem, these were baseless allegations. And the Minister for Agriculture said even less than a year ago, he told reporters that there were no foreign ownership, and he said the same thing in the Legislature, except for, of course, the 140 examples that were identified by the provincial auditor. And, you know, he also insisted that the audit did not find any confirmed instances of unauthorized former ownership, except for the problem that we're not even asking for proof of Canadian residency on half of the out-of-provinces purchases that were cited. So this is, you know, if we have a law on the books and nobody's looking at enforcing it, you know, if a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make a sound here, Mr. Speaker. It's an issue that keeps coming up. And I want to talk about a little bit about how we as a province need to move forward in the state of the world right now. Obviously, we're always going to have massive parts of our economy that rely on trade. But I think what the last 6 months to a year have told us more than anything else is that anything we can be doing here in Saskatchewan with Saskatchewan people or Canadian people, we should be. We had our leader the other day introduce the Make It Here incentive to try to encourage more processing here. We've repeatedly called on the government to re-examine all the contracts they have and to end contracts that they have with United States entities. And I think this is another issue we here have to be looking at. When, you know, I'll go back to in July, Mr. Speaker, when we attended, many of us on both sides of the House attended the MLC conference in Saskatoon, and I had the opportunity to join with many American legislators as we visited Cenovus's facilities in Lloydminster. And it was so incredible to, at that time of year, watch all these American legislators absolutely marvel at the beauty of Saskatchewan's crops. As we were in the bus, we had that great picture that everybody in Saskatchewan knows, where on the one side you have the bright yellow canola, on the other side you have the beautiful purple flax. And I bring this up just to emphasize how tied our producers are, our crops and our agriculture are to the very identity of Saskatchewan and the importance that is to our culture. It's not good for Saskatchewan and Canadian agriculture and multi-generational farms and producers to have this worry that we are losing the land that is so dear, so important, and so central, not only to our economy, but to our very identity. You know, and going back a little bit to the resources required to ensure that we have that we are able to enforce the laws that do exist. I think there is an opportunity still for them to be enhanced. But we need to make sure that the Farmland Security Board has the resources, the tools, and the teeth to review and investigate and enforce all these issues. You know, a little bit on the Farmland Security Board. They do so much. Obviously monitoring for farm and land ownership is one of the roles of the board, but they also administer two other sections, specifically Part 2, the farm foreclosure protection, and Part 3, the home quarter protection. And, judging from the incident numbers in the 2023-2024 annual report, it appeared that administering those second and third parts are really quite time-consuming. There's about 40,000 farmland transactions per year in Saskatchewan. So in order to be able to examine and do the work required to ensure that we are having the ownership of our critical agricultural land here in Saskatchewan, it's clear that we need more resources and more enforcement tools. Some of the things that we're asking for here in the opposition is that we need to beef up the fines to a level that they're actually a deterrent. If you are having a large out-of-country corporation, or worse, the possibility of a criminal enterprise who's looking to launder money, the fines have to be of such a penalty that it is actually a deterrent, that somebody is not going to be fined and take that as a slap on a wrist and pay the fee. We should not be profiting over illegal ownership of farmland. So beefing up the fines so that they actually have some teeth, that's something that we really need to look at. We also need to review and audit land ownership and enforce divestiture of land acquired and owned by foreign entities that breach the law. This has to be something that we are looking at in a serious way. And no foreign entity, government, or criminal organization, again, should profit off land acquired in a breach of the law or illegally. And we also really need to ensure that statutory declarations are mandatory and contain the information needed for efficient review and to enforce. Going back to some of the comments that were made in the fall of last year, and in fact today, it's a general theme of this government to say that there is no problem. That there is no problem. We spoke today about the absolutely devastating rise in food bank use to be met with a response that we've never had it so good here in Saskatchewan, that we are the most affordable. And it's simply, there's a disconnect with this government and the realities being faced by people on the ground. We were told that we have the best mental health and addiction supports when we're losing somebody every single day. We're told that we support workers when people with full-time jobs are still having to stop by the food bank on their way home. That is not certainly growth that works for everyone, and I understand why you've gotten rid of that slogan, because it's simply people can tell through their wallets and through what they're actually experiencing. And, the government can stand up over and over and say to us that this isn't a problem. That foreign ownership isn't an issue, that the opposition doesn't know what they're talking about, which I know is a favorite of theirs. But this is not something that we're just making up. This is something that we're hearing repeatedly, both in conversations and written requests to the government, from the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities and from producers themselves. And so that's really what we're asking here, is if the government refuses to listen to us, which I understand, won't they at least listen to the experts, listen to the producers, listen to the people who are experiencing this as a concern and an issue in real time? What I would really like to see of this government is take the legislation that is actually there and make it work. To actually give the good people at the Farm Securities Board, who, you know, like I said, in the 40,000 land transactions that they're dealing with annually, to actually give them the resources and the tools they need to be able to do their job properly, and so that we can actually have the data and have the work shown that we are doing land transactions legally and properly in a way in this province that doesn't negatively impact our producers, that doesn't negatively impact our economy, and in fact doesn't negatively impact our sovereignty, which is another worry. As we kind of move forward in the future, our very kind of land and resources and water are going to become much more critical. And as a province, we should be thinking very, very hard about what that means when we're looking at selling off parts of this great province to foreign entities and foreign ownership. You know, so I just want to say to kind of the good producers of this province, to keep doing what you're doing, keep advocating. I know that we always on this side of the House with our ag critic and our leader and our deputy ag critic, the honourable member from Mount Royal, they will always be there to listen, and they're not going to tell you to not believe your eyes and ears and what you're seeing and what you're dealing with. They are always going to be there to listen and hear your concerns and take you seriously. When we're all over the province and somebody tells us this is a problem, we believe them. And we're not going to try to tell them that that doesn't exist, that the experience they're experiencing is not real and not true. But throughout the course of this debate, you'll hear from myself and my colleagues. We really want to see action taken in making the laws that do exist actually work, and beefing up and increasing the tools we have to ensure that we continue to have sovereignty over our land, that we continue to support our multi-generational farms here in Saskatchewan, and that we make it so our agricultural sector works for everyone here at home. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to move the following motion. That the Assembly calls upon the government to strengthen protections to prevent illegal foreign farmland ownership and address the concerns that have been identified by the Provincial Auditor, the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities and Agricultural Producers, and condemns the Sask Party government for its years of inaction on this issue. I thank all members for listening to me. I look forward to the speeches from my colleagues and no doubt the dizzying intellectual questions we get from the government at large. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved by the member from Regina University. Do we have a copy of the motion? Okay. Thank you. It has been moved by the member from Regina University that the Assembly calls upon the government to strengthen protections to prevent illegal foreign farmland ownership and address the concerns that have been identified by the Provincial Auditor, the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities and Agricultural Producers, and condemns the Sask Party government for its years of inaction on this issue. Is this Assembly ready for the question? I recognize the member from Cut Knife Turtleford.
Well, thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It is truly a pleasure to enter into today's 75-minute debate on farmland ownership in Saskatchewan. This is a topic that is important not only to me as a landowner and a producer, but also to many of the residents of the constituency I represent, Tutknife, Turtleford, and many producers across the province. First of all, Mr. Speaker, let me be crystal clear. No one who is not a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident is permitted to own more than 10 acres of Saskatchewan farmland without an exemption. Full stop. That includes foreign companies, investors, and banks. Even if a Canadian company has one person who owns one share that is not Canadian, that company is not permitted to own farmland in Saskatchewan. Also, Mr. Speaker, we just recently strengthened our regulations, making pension plans, including the Canadian pension plan, ineligible to purchase or acquire farmland in Saskatchewan. The members opposite claim years of inaction on this file by our government. The fact is, no government has done more to protect our farmers and ranchers than we have. Former Agriculture Ministers Bob Benrod and Lyle Stewart, as well as former Ag Minister and current Minister of Highways, and the current Agriculture Minister have all been active in strengthening the rules and regulations surrounding farmland ownership in our province. In fact, Saskatchewan has some of the most stringent rules on foreign land ownership in the country. Alberta allows up to 20 acres. NDP Manitoba allows up to 40 acres. And in Ontario and British Columbia, there are no restrictions on foreign land ownership. Let me say that again, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for those that may have missed it. In NDP British Columbia, where farmland is disappearing and at a premium, there are no restrictions on foreign land ownership. Mr. Deputy Speaker, allow me to go through the recommendations made in the auditor's report as was referenced in the motion. The first recommendation was to update the statutory declaration to require permanent residents to provide proof of residency. The Farmland Security Board has developed new forms for individuals and corporations which now asks for proof of residency. These new forms have been available since August 25, and effective January 1st, 2026, only these new forms will be accepted. The second recommendation, have the Farmland Security Board set a timeline to review transactions and assess compliance with the Act. In October 2024, the Board directed staff to complete transaction reviews within 60 days, then shortened that to 30 days in January of 2025. Since October of 2024, all transactions have been reviewed within these timelines. Number 3, that the Farmland Security Board request statutory declarations for individuals and corporations to assess compliance with the Act and regulations. In October 2024, the Board requested all out-of-province corporations complete a declaration form. This has been the practice since that time. The Board also has requested that all landowners submit a declaration for new land transactions if one has not been completed in the past 12 months. Staff are currently working on this and expect this to be implemented this fall. Number 4, that the Board work with the Ministry of Agriculture to determine how to enforce restrictions on foreign leasing of farmland. In January of 25, the Board received all registered lease interests in Saskatchewan and is currently working through the review process, similar to they would with ownership transactions. The process for enforcement on foreign leases is the same as the process for foreign purchase transactions. Number 5, the Board document in its minutes declared conflicts of interest. Prior to the audit, conflicts of interest were declared. However, adjustments have been made to clearly document these conflicts in the minutes of the meetings beginning in November of 2024. Number 6, that the Board approve adequate notice to those applying for an exemption, informing them of when the Board will be discussing those applications. When an application is received by the Farmland Security Board, written confirmation is given to the applicant as to when the application will be reviewed by the Board. This process began in October of 2024. Number 7, that the board provide timely communications to individuals and corporations about requirements to sell land when not in compliance with the Act. Mr. Speaker, occasionally someone who is not a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident may be the beneficiary of an estate and is unable to own the land that has been bequeathed. In these cases, the beneficiary has a maximum of 5 years to divest of any farmland they may have received. A written reminder will be sent 2 years prior to the 5-year maximum, again implemented in October of 2024. Number 8, that the board formalize procedures for the escalation of enforcement actions to address identified non-compliance. Board processes have been further developed and documented. Meeting materials have been updated with more detailed information regarding outstanding declarations and instances where compliance may be in question. Number 9, that the board use performance indicators to monitor the effectiveness of its regulatory activities when it comes to foreign ownership of farmland in Saskatchewan. Since July of 2025, statistics are provided first to the board and then to the public, including the number of investigations, timeliness of transaction reviews, number of statutory declarations requested and received, as well as exemptions requested and received. Number 10, that the board enhance its public reporting of all its regulatory activities related to the foreign ownership of Saskatchewan farmland. In the latest annual report, tabled in July of 2025, it was upgraded to include additional metrics for the general public. Their website is being updated to include additional reporting of the work of the board, and that will be updated following each meeting. Mr. Speaker, those are the 10 recommendations made by the provincial auditor, and we thank her for her work. All 10 recommendations have either been implemented already or are nearing implementation. It is also important to note, Mr. Speaker, the auditor found no confirmed instances of unauthorized foreign ownership. 0. None. Nada. Mr. Speaker, that doesn't sound like years of inaction to me. That sounds like a government that is listening. A government that is working to ensure that our precious farmland is protected and available to the world-class farmers and ranchers of this province. Mr. Speaker, if anyone, including the members opposite, has concerns regarding foreign ownership of land in Saskatchewan, I strongly encourage them to report those concerns to the Farmland Security Board at, write this down, farmownership@gov.sk.ca. All reported concerns are reviewed by the board. If you don't have specific concerns but would like more information on what our government is doing to prevent foreign ownership of Saskatchewan farmland, go to www.saskatchewan.ca/farmland. I would strongly encourage the members opposite to do so. Maybe they'll learn a thing or two. Mr. Deputy Speaker, over 99% of the arable farmland in Saskatchewan is represented by members on this side of the House. Foreign land ownership is important to us, important to our constituents, and important to our agriculture industry. We want to ensure the long-term viability of our agricultural sector. A strong agricultural sector means a strong Saskatchewan. A strong agricultural sector means strong communities, where families can grow and thrive, where small towns come together at the local community hall to celebrate a wedding or an anniversary, or to help a neighbour who may be going through a difficult time, where the local cafe has its daily coffee row and much wisdom is shared, where the local rink is full in the winter and the local ball diamonds full in the summer. Without a strong and vibrant agricultural sector, all of that is at risk. That is why we have always taken this issue seriously, not fear-mongering to score cheap political points like the opposition is attempting to do. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I cannot and will not be supporting the motion put forward by the member from Regina University. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an incredibly serious issue for the producers of this province. I'd say for rural communities, Mr. Speaker, and for our province as a whole. The illegal acquisition of farmland in Saskatchewan by foreign entities and interests, Mr. Speaker. And what we see again here today by that government, by the MLA from Cutknife that just rose, by the minister here earlier today, by the minister before him, is just a mockery, Mr. Speaker, on an issue that this government has failed Saskatchewan people and producers from the start, Mr. Speaker. This government knows full well that over their 18-year tenure that they have looked the other way, Mr. Speaker, and that they failed to enforce the Farmland Security Act, Mr. Speaker, that they failed to act against illegal foreign farmland acquisition, Mr. Speaker, and they know that those costs have been borne by producers, Mr. Speaker, in this province. Now, producers in this province are incredibly hardworking, incredibly proud, Mr. Speaker, often running and building operations and farms and ranches that are multi-generation, Mr. Speaker. But it's not right and it's not fair for an act, a law that's in place, Mr. Speaker, that's as important as this, to not be enforced by this government, and for that government to then put them up against foreign interests and foreign capital and foreign money, Mr. Speaker. This is an unfair, unlevel playing field that this government is forcing Saskatchewan and Canadian producers to compete within, Mr. Speaker. These concerns have been brought forward to this government time and time again. We've brought these concerns forward, Mr. Speaker. Producers have brought these concerns forward. SARM has brought these concerns forward. The auditor, of course, brought forward concerns last year, Mr. Speaker. We finally see a little bit of recognition from this government, but nothing with the kind of resources and teeth to actually address the problem, Mr. Speaker. And if you think about it, not enforcing this act, Mr. Speaker, can allow foreign interests, foreign entities, whether they be foreign governments like China, Mr. Speaker, whether they're billionaire dollars from around the world, Mr. Speaker, whether they're proceeds from criminal organizations, Mr. Speaker, to be used to illegally purchase farmland in Saskatchewan and then to profit on that land, Mr. Speaker. It's not right, it's not fair to the hard-working, proud producers of this province, and it's not in the interests of agriculture or those local communities, Mr. Speaker. It's certainly not in our interests to have these laws undermined and to have foreign ownership by these sorts of entities, Mr. Speaker, and then have absentee landlords with very different interests in that farmland, Mr. Speaker, in our communities across our province. It doesn't help our towns and villages. It doesn't help our rural communities. It certainly doesn't build agriculture, something that we can be so proud of in this province, Mr. Speaker. Now, we've brought forward calls to action for years, Mr. Speaker, and that government has, like we saw just now, dismissed the issue, Mr. Speaker, and failed to act. We've called for statutory declarations to be instituted in a mandatory way for years, Mr. Speaker, that would require things like proof of residency and declaration of beneficial interests and of capital and equity, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that the Farmland Security Board can act to review, to audit, and to enforce the law. This government has looked the other way at every turn, Mr. Speaker, and they've looked away and walked away from the interests of producers on this front. This is something that could have been instituted years ago, Mr. Speaker, and allowed the Farmland Security Board to enforce this law along with this government, Mr. Speaker, and they failed to do so. Now they finally, after years of us calling for this, Mr. Speaker, and many producers, now they're bringing this forward, Mr. Speaker, but I hear they haven't even consulted those with knowledge in agriculture and in the legal community with an understanding of how those deals can be structured. Very complex financial and legal arrangements, Mr. Speaker, how they're structured to breach the law, to skirt the law, to break the law, Mr. Speaker. And if we're going to have a statutory declaration, we need to make sure that's the tool that is needed to be able to allow a proper audit review and then action, Mr. Speaker. So it's, again, Mr. Speaker, this is a government that's had kid gloves to this issue, has tried to dismiss the very serious concerns of producers on this front, and that hasn't listened to the agricultural community or legal community that's been pointing to this concern for a very long period of time, Mr. Speaker. And so that's why we continue to call on this government to finally step up and to do so in a way that actually makes sure the Farmland Security Board has the resources, the tools, and the teeth it needs to enforce our law, and to be able to go back and review and audit transactions and land ownership in the province, Mr. Speaker. We see a couple mentions of a new form that the government's going to be bringing forward, and you know, we hope that's an improvement. We're concerned that that wasn't built with consultation with those that understand how these deals are being structured to skirt or to break the laws of this province, Mr. Speaker. But we hear nothing from this government. In fact, they've been clear. They're not going to go back and review and audit and review land ownership in the province, Mr. Speaker. Well, that's wrong, Mr. Speaker, because at the end of the day, if a foreign entity, whether that be a government like China, Mr. Speaker, whether that be a billionaire or a fund from somewhere else around the world, whether that be a criminal organization, Mr. Speaker, if they've breached our laws, skirted our laws, and acquired farmland in Saskatchewan, they shouldn't be left to operate it and profit from it, and certainly they shouldn't be allowed to sell it and then profit, Mr. Speaker, making millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker, by breaking the law here in Saskatchewan. We've been clear that we need to make sure that the Farmland Security Board and this government has the tools in place and a commitment to review land ownership, and where an entity has broken the law, Mr. Speaker, where an entity has broken the law and are holding that, purchased that land illegally, again, whether that's governments like that of China or billionaires around the world or funds from around the world or criminal organizations, this government needs to force divestiture of that land, needs to force sell-off of that land, and they need to ensure a forfeiture of profit, because no criminal organization or government or entity or billionaire from around the world that broke the laws of Saskatchewan in acquiring farmland should be allowed to profit from it, Mr. Speaker. This is about making sure that we protect agriculture and the agricultural producers of Saskatchewan. This is about building agriculture for future generations, Mr. Speaker. This is about making sure we have rural communities and economies that work in this province, Mr. Speaker. Having a law in place, as this government does, and then failing to enforce it is beyond weak, Mr. Speaker, but compromises our future, our sovereignty, and that of producers who deserve those opportunities. It's not right, and it's not fair for the hardworking producers of this province, Mr. Speaker, who have built operations through pride and hard work, Mr. Speaker, to have to compete against big foreign money, Mr. Speaker, breaching laws of this province in the acquisition of land. It's had direct impacts, obviously, if and when that's occurred, Mr. Speaker, in the ability of an operation to grow and be viable and to acquire land that fits well into their operations, Mr. Speaker. And it's this government that's sat idly by while this has happened. This government's been in power for 18 years, Mr. Speaker. We see a lot of issues in this province, Mr. Speaker, whether they be in healthcare or economically, and different choices of this government that we call out and call for action. Some of those are new, some of them are longer standing. With respect to this very serious concern on behalf of the producers of this province, agriculture in this province, our economy and rural communities, this is a government that has looked away, the other way, Mr. Speaker, every step of the way. As land has been acquired, Mr. Speaker, and even now, Mr. Speaker, still continuing to fail to make sure that the Farmland Security Board and this government has the tools and the commitment to enforce the law, Mr. Speaker, and to make sure that foreign entities that have acquired farmland illegally in Saskatchewan, that's acted upon in the way that it should, Mr. Speaker. This is about agriculture. This is about rural communities. It's about the future of this wonderful province, Mr. Speaker. It's why I'm very proud to support the motion brought forward by my good friend from Regina University that calls on this government to act on this front and rightfully condemns the years of inaction that have sold out the hardworking producers of this province, Mr. Speaker. With that, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to push for producers and this province.
I recognize the member from the cause.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you to the members opposite for taking an interest in agriculture with the motion they brought forward. It's always good to see attention paid to the people and the industry that feeds this province and the world. Right. As a proud Saskatchewan rancher belonging to a fourth-generation cattle operation south of Prince Albert, I can tell you land isn't just dirt, grass, and water to us. It's family history, livelihood, and legacy. My husband and I, and the generations before us, have always known that land is the most valuable tool we have to make a living. And when we are done doing that, it is what our kids and grandkids will make their living with. There's a saying in rural Saskatchewan, and a country music song, Mr. Speaker: buy dirt, they're not making any more of it. It's simple, but it's true. That's why people who work the land understand its worth better than anyone else. And that's why we take protecting it so seriously. So I welcome the opportunity to speak on this motion today, Mr. Speaker, and share what our government is already doing to keep Saskatchewan farmland in the hands of those who actually live here and work it. Mr. Speaker, the government of Saskatchewan is firmly committed to ensuring our farmland remains in the hands of Canadian farmers. Protecting farmland is a long-standing priority for our government and the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, the members opposite seem to believe this issue has somehow been ignored or left unchecked. It has not. In fact, Saskatchewan already has some of the strongest protections in Canada to prevent foreign or speculative ownership of farmland. Way back in 1974, the Farm Ownership Act was first proclaimed to address growing concerns that non-Canadian wealth was bidding up the price of Saskatchewan farmland and making it harder for local producers to compete. Over time, that act evolved into what we now call the Saskatchewan Farm Security Act, which is one of the strongest frameworks in Canada for farmland ownership. During the 1970s and 80s, several important amendments were made, including a key restriction that remains in place today. Non-residents of Canada are restricted to owning a maximum of 10 acres of farmland. 10 acres. That's it. And that rule isn't new. It's been there for decades, regardless of political cycles. Then, in 2015 and 2016, our government made further amendments to strengthen those protections. After extensive public consultation with producers, landowners, and industry groups, we made several key changes for clarity and fairness. Some of those changes included pension plans and investment trusts were made ineligible to purchase farmland. Financing for farmland purchases must go through a recognized financial institution, ensuring transparency and accountability. And the Farmland Security Board was given expanded authority to enforce the law. The Farmland Security Board is an important part of safe and secure farmland ownership. The board is funded and managed as part of the Ministry of Agriculture, but, and this is key, it operates independently. The board does not take direction from government in its decision-making. It has power to investigate, enforce the law, and, if necessary, to issue penalties or orders to divest land that's been purchased unlawfully. And, Mr. Speaker, it should be acknowledged that the Farmland Security Board has either implemented or is working to complete all of the provincial auditor's recommendations this fall. It is also important to note the auditor's report found the board's existing procedures were appropriate and fulfilled its legislative mandates. And, as indicated in the report, the audit did not find any instances of unauthorized foreign ownership. If members opposite know of concerns about foreign ownership of land in Saskatchewan, for the third time today, it can be reported to the Farmland Security Board, and additional information regarding farmland ownership can be found at www.saskatchewan.ca/farmland. Our government hasn't stopped there. A newly formed advisory committee has been established to take a fresh look at the current landscape of farmland ownership in our province, to make sure that our legislation continues to meet the needs of Saskatchewan producers today and into the future. This three-person committee was carefully selected based on professional expertise and knowledge of farmland ownership framework. They will be consulting with stakeholders like SARM, APAS, and others to ensure that any future recommendations reflect the needs and realities of people who actually live and work on the land. Public consultations will open in 2026. The Government of Saskatchewan wants to ensure that Saskatchewan farmland remains in the control of Canadian agricultural producers to sustain family-owned farms and rural communities whose growth depends on long-term affordability. Strong farm ownership legislation also supports the achievement of Saskatchewan's growth plan goals of increasing crop production and livestock cash receipts, and growing Saskatchewan's agri-food exports to $20 billion. In 2007, our entire export amount was around that $20 billion mark. Today, our agri-food goals alone is $20 billion. Amazing what a change in government can do. Mr. Speaker, a judicial scan across Western Canada shows something interesting, that NDP British Columbia, despite plenty of reports and public discussion, has not implemented any meaningful foreign farmland ownership regulations. They've had the reports, they've had the recommendations, yet no action. So, when members opposite suggest that we're not doing enough, Mr. Speaker, I'd invite them to take a look at how things are handled in other provinces, especially those governed by their political cousins. It might give them perspective on just how far ahead Saskatchewan truly is. Here in Saskatchewan, under our Sask Party government, we've taken this issue seriously from day one. We've acted on it, we've enforced it, and we've kept farmland ownership in the hands of Saskatchewan people and families. Mr. Speaker, our producers notice. They know who's standing up for them. When I talk to farmers back home, they all tell me the same thing. They want stability, they want fairness, and they want government to stay out of their way while making sure our foreign money doesn't price them out of land they work. Mr. Speaker, the opposition can talk about strengthening protections, but the truth is we already have them, and they're working. What's more, they're being reviewed and improved through responsible, evidence-based processes, not through motions designed for political theatre. Our government's record speaks for itself. We have decades of consistent, effective policy protecting farmland ownership for Saskatchewan families. We've updated legislation when needed. We've empowered the Farmland Security Board to act independently. We've responded to the provincial auditor's findings. And now we're proactively reviewing the landscape to ensure our protections remain strong for the next generation. So while I appreciate the members opposite for taking an interest in agriculture today, I'd remind them that the hard work of keeping Saskatchewan farmland in Canadian hands has been ongoing for decades, and it's being done by the very people sitting on this side of the House. I'll close by saying this, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan farmland is not for sale to the highest foreign bidder or pension fund. It belongs to the farmers and ranchers who live here, and every one of them will tell you where they live is God's country. Under this government, Saskatchewan farmland will continue to be strong, safe, and secure. It will stay in the hands of those who have earned it, worked it, and planned.
I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And it is indeed an honour and a privilege to be able to rise today and enter into this 75-minute debate on farmland ownership in this province. Mr. Speaker, I was pleased to hear the comments and the motions put forth by my colleague, the member for Regina University, and I cannot wait to get into this debate today, Mr. Speaker. So let's review, Mr. Speaker, the timeline here that we're talking about with regard to this government's inaction on enforcement of the Act when it comes to foreign ownership of farmland in this province. After 18 years, despite what you've heard from members opposite, what we have seen consistently, despite repeated calls to firm up the legislation and the regulation, despite repeated concerns brought forward from producers, from folks like those at SARM, we've seen a government that has failed to step up, failed to enforce the law, and failed to crack down on illegal foreign ownership in this province. Mr. Speaker, I've been here in this Assembly since 2016, and I certainly have heard those calls made repeatedly by members on this side of the House. My colleague here, the member for Mount Royal, has been making these calls repeatedly, Mr. Speaker, but it seems that the members opposite have conveniently ignored those facts over the last number of years. But Mr. Deputy Speaker, it doesn't surprise me, because after 18 years, what I continue to see is a government that has to often be dragged or embarrassed into doing the right thing, instead of, Mr. Deputy Speaker, doing the right thing in the first place. So we continue, and up to this day, to continue to hear concerns about this government's ability, about their willingness to actually dig in, make the necessary changes to the Act, to regulations, resource the Farmland Security Board to actually start to deal with what many folks on Coffee Row, like those from members opposite we're talking about, already understand to be true in this province and have been calling out for years to see action on. They want this government to enforce the existing laws to crack down on illegal farmland ownership, but we have consistently seen a government that is reluctant to do so. Now, this sort of came to a head, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when we saw the Auditor's chapter looking into the Farmland Security Board and some of the policies and measures that they have in place. Initially, what we saw from this government, and again, this doesn't surprise me because whether it's this issue or ER closures or the number of people struggling with the cost of living and the list goes on, we have a government that seems increasingly content to read their lines, to give themselves congratulations, to ignore the voices of Saskatchewan people rather than actually dig in and do the work. But you know, when that auditor's report was introduced, I saw both the Minister of Agriculture and the Premier stand up repeatedly and suggest there's nothing to see here. Everything is good. Found 0 instances of illegal farmland ownership in this province, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Well, that's not what that report said. What that report said, and I'll enter some of those remarks into the record later, was that in 50% of the cases that they reviewed, there was no ownership or oversight. That they did not simply have the proper tools in place, proper documentation to be even able to assess whether there was illegal ownership in those cases, and they made a number of recommendations. We didn't immediately hear from this government some of the comments that we've heard today. Oh, we understand this is an issue, we're going to take steps. No, what we heard from that government is there's nothing to see here. This report absolves us of any wrongdoing. Had a little bit of deja vu. Those who are here, and I know there's a lot of new members in this House, similar lines that we heard another minister stand up and repeat when it came to the GTH. Those who know, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So, you know, there are a number of things that members opposite have said and members on this side have mentioned about Saskatchewan people that I absolutely agree with. Saskatchewan people understand the value of land. They understand that it's our job to be proud stewards of that land, and when you treat the land well, when you care for the land, that land has and can continue to yield unimaginable bounty for not only the people of this province, but for people around the world. We understand that. We also understand that Saskatchewan people are incredibly resilient, especially in farming communities, rural communities right now. They're going through a lot of challenges. We look at tariffs, we see drought, 9-year drought in some cases, Mr. Deputy Speaker. But there's always next year country in this province, whether that's the riders or whether that is looking ahead to that next crop. We also know, in addition to being proud and being resilient, Saskatchewan people are law-abiding. They follow the rules, they expect those rules to be fair, and they expect that others will follow the rules as well. But when the rules are not followed, Saskatchewan people also expect that there will be enforcement of those laws. And that's what we're talking about here today. You know, I've heard members stand up and talk about how strong the Act is. The problem that we are dealing with here is the lack of enforcement. And after 18 years that we have had a government turn a blind eye to the enforcement of those laws. We heard it again here today, accusing us of fear-mongering because we brought forward those concerns. That's not what this is, Mr. Speaker. This is an attempt to drag this government again to do the right thing. 40,000 farmland transactions a year in this province, but we don't have the resources that are needed at the Farmland Security Board to actually do the investigation. Of those, as I mentioned, 50% of the transactions that were reviewed did not request that statutory ownership declaration for the farmland purchase of corporations not registered in Saskatchewan. That doesn't say there are no problems here, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Since 2020, the Farmland Security Board has offered 5 orders to sell inappropriately purchased farmland. Mr. Speaker, we've also seen a huge increase in the value of that land, and without proper enforcement, without proper penalties, without proper oversight, there is a real pull for people to try to skirt around the laws. So this is what I'm going to recommend to the government, Mr. Speaker, that they actually take this seriously, stop denying that there is a problem. I had some confidence that maybe they'd finally understood, but hearing the members opposite, now I'm a little bit concerned again, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Make sure that the Farmland Security Board has the tools and the teeth to review, investigate, and enforce the law. Beef up the fines so it is actually a deterrent for those who are looking to this province and thinking maybe they can get away with breaking the law. Let's send a strong message to all of those. Review and audit land ownership and enforcement and the forced divestiture of any of those lands that have been purchased outside of what the law states, Mr. Speaker, and not just on a go-forward basis, looking back, auditing those transactions that have slipped through the loopholes in this province. No one should benefit from crime and breaking the law. Members opposite, the government, they suggest that they have read the auditor's chapters. I suggest after those comments they read them again, they take her up on those recommendations, and they finally start taking this issue of foreign land ownership in this province seriously. I will be supporting the motion, and I look forward to the debate.
I recognize the member for Lumsden North.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be on my feet to talk about something that is near and dear to every farmer's heart, my own included. And that's land and what it can do for us. It's already been said once, and Mr. Speaker, I'll just mention it again. There is no more land being made, and so we do have to do a great job of protecting and sustaining the land that we have so that for generations to come, it'll be there. And Saskatchewan does have a lot of land, Mr. Speaker, 60.2 million acres of cultivated farmland. I'll put that in terms that farmers understand a little bit better. 376,250 quarters of land. That's 40% of Canada's arable acres. I've used one axiom already talking about land. I got another one. Whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. Well, why would I say that? Because really it's true that the basis for water comes back to the land. It's land that has the supply. So most of the fighting about water is in regards to the lack of water, or possibly too much water. It's never quite exactly what you need. And if you start messing with it, you're going to make some really unhappy neighbors. So to grow successful crops, Mr. Speaker, you need three ingredients. You need air, you need water, and you need food for the crop, i.e. the land. In the air, you have photosynthesis, capture of carbon dioxide. Who knew that farmers were so sustainable? The advent of zero-till, GPS guidance, advanced sprayer technology, plant breeding, lots of ways where farmers have become much more efficient and are capturing more CO2 in the process. But farmers are always looking for more efficiency and, in turn, more land to farm because of the efficiency. The second ingredient, water. Some areas of our great province get more than others. That's a known fact. And irrigation is another tool that can supplement and provide if you're so lucky to have that availability. Now, the sand pile that our family farms, and it is a sand pile, needs consistent rainfall. Sometimes it comes, and other times we recognize that we're going to have a tough year. But we remain confident in God's faithfulness and his benevolence. Matthew 5 tells me that he causes the sun, he being God, causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. God's faithfulness extends to us all. And so, Mr. Speaker, the third element required to grow crops, land. It's about the nutrients in land. Good land, rich, loamy soil with good drainage, abundantly supplied in Saskatchewan. Just unfortunately, not so much on my farm. And how to find more land, all farmers think about that. I think we dream about that at times. We think about the cost of it. We think about the value proposition. Can I make this pay? Does it have potential for irrigation? That becomes extremely important. And the location, the proximity to our home place. We don't want to have any regrets in life about lost opportunities with land. Now, the value of land has risen exponentially. Farm Credit, in a recent survey, talked about the average cost per acre going from $872 in 2013 to $2,385 in 2023. And yes, it's increased significantly. And those are average costs. The real costs in a lot of areas are a lot higher. And so is the yield and the efficiency of getting that yield in the bin. Now, it's interesting how land, the central component in growing crops, has such a pull on landowners. Mr. Speaker, you and I were chatting about this just the other day, how the smell of freshly tilled soil is that happy place for so many of us. The fresh smell, the anticipated harvest, the adrenaline rush of well-done, safe work and anticipating a harvest. It reminds me of a dramatic musical I saw about 10 or 12 years ago, The Pull of the Land, from the community of Harris, a member from Rostern Delisle's backyard. Two retired school teachers, Beth Robertson and Elaine Kaupek. The story about a young man, Anthony, who returns home to help his parents with harvest and wrestles hard with the urge to return home and take over the farm. Sold-out performances all across our little province of Saskatchewan. And I saw it in Moose Jaw at the May Wilson Theatre. So my own emotions and experience were captured by what I saw. The smells of freshly tilled land, the fresh smell of a spring rain, crop emerging against the backdrop of the setting sun. So how do we protect this valuable asset? Our government is fully committed to ensuring that the ownership of farmland remains in the hands of Canadian farmers. Quick look at history, Mr. Speaker. It shows that federal and provincial policies encourage residency and Canadian ownership of agricultural land. Way back to 1872, 5 years after Confederation, the Dominion Lands Act, massive influx of settlers and homesteaders that were supplied by that act. Now, the Great Depression came not many years later. Very low demand for land. There was no fear of non-resident ownership at that point in time. But the first legislation here in Saskatchewan was in 1974, Saskatchewan Farm Ownership Land. 1970 to 1980, the number of amendments that were made, non-residents of Canada limited to 10 acres. 2003, Saskatchewan Farm Security Act. Non-resident persons and non-Canadian owned companies continue to be restricted to owning only 10 acres. Publicly traded companies are considered non-Canadian owned. Commitment at the time to a full review and consultation with stakeholders. Moving on to 2015, pension plans, administrators of pension plans, those were dealt with. Land holdings includes any interest held by way of a debt or obligation funded other than by a resident, a bank, credit union, or other financial institution. And extensive consultations have followed all along. 2016, making pensions, administrators of pensions and investment trusts ineligible, and expanded authorities for the Farmland Security Board, with increase of fines up to $50,000 for individuals and $500,000 for corporations. And then this fall, the release of the Provincial Auditor Report, the report making 10 recommendations, which, Mr. Speaker, are all implemented or being implemented. We do take this seriously. Our government is committed to ensuring that our legislative framework will ensure farmland remains in the hands of Canadian farmers. We've stood up and made that known and very clear. We have a committee that we're going to look for their results coming forward soon. They have a solid background in farming and legal matters, trusted, engaged, and knowledgeable, who will listen and bring back their report. I will not be reporting or moving adoption of this amendment. I will oppose. Thank you.
The 65-minute period has expired. The 10-minute question and answer period will begin. I recognize the member from Regina University.
the main point of debate, Mr. Speaker, appears to be today, is there a problem or not? Here on this side of the House, we tend to agree with the provincial auditor, with producers, and with SARM that there is, in fact, a problem with the enforcement of the existing laws and foreign ownership. So I'd like to ask the member from Batoche, does she agree with SARM producers and the provincial auditors that this is a serious problem here in Saskatchewan?
Hear, hear.
I recognize the member for Batoche.
And thank you to the member opposite for the question. It should be noted that the Farmland Security Board has either implemented or is working to complete all of the auditor's recommendations this fall. It is also important to note the auditor's report indicated the audit did not find any instances of unauthorized foreign ownership. A newly formed advisory committee has been established by our Ag Minister to take a fresh look at farmland ownership in our province. Based on their deep understanding of farmland ownership framework, this three-person committee will be consulting with the stakeholders like SARM and APAS to ensure any future recommendations reflect the needs and realities of Saskatchewan producers.
I recognize the member from Humboldt-Watrous.
Saskatchewan limits foreign entities owning 10 acres of land, of farmland. Meanwhile, NDP-run BC has no restrictions.
Wow.
NDP Manitoba has allowable limit of 40 acres.
Okay.
To the member from Regina University, why doesn't the NDP opposition here in Saskatchewan tell their political counterparts in BC and Manitoba to follow our example of legislative framework to support Canadian farmland to remain in the hands of Canadian farmers and effectively limit and ensure the ownership of Canadian farmland?
I recognize the member from Regina University.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's always delightful to see a government that is so unfocused on their own backyard here. You know, when we talk about following our friends or cousins in other provinces, I would like to bring up again some of my remarks from my colleague from Saskatoon-Meewasin and talk to Danielle Smith about using the notwithstanding clause to harm workers in Alberta. Mr. Speaker, what I would like to say is that this is the government. They have the power to control what's happening in Saskatchewan, and that's where they should be focused and not looking and not be worried about what's happening outside of our borders here. Thank you very much.
I recognize the member for Regina Mount Royal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We hear again today from the Sask Party government a dismissal of very real concerns of producers across this province, SARM, of the auditor. They've, of course, sat idle and have failed to enforce the law with respect to illegal foreign farmland acquisition for years, Mr. Speaker, 18 years going on, Mr. Speaker. And now, Mr. Speaker, they deny that problem, and they have been unwilling to commit to the measures that would review, audit, enforce land that's been illegally acquired by foreign interests, whether they be the People's Republic of China or billionaires from around the world or criminal organizations, to force the divestiture of that land and to forfeit those profits. You know, how does the member from Cutknife Turtleford defend this very weak position to the producers he represents?
I recognize the member for Cutknife Turtleford.
Thank you very much, and I thank the member for the question. We're hearing a lot today about rumors of leadership contenders and rumors of foreign land ownership. I would strongly encourage, if anybody, members opposite, members on this side, anybody in the province knows or suspects any illegal ownership in this province, that they take it to the Farm Security Board. The Farm Security Board will look into it and deal with it at that time. The board also has the ability to develop the processes they need to enforce the Act, and that is why they have built in the statutory declaration, which is now in effect. Thank you.
I recognize the member for Cypress Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The provincial auditor found no proof of illegal foreign land ownership in Saskatchewan. To the member from Regina Lakeview, do you trust the provincial auditor and their findings that showed farmland transactions in Saskatchewan followed the regulations?
I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.
The members opposite might want to look up from their talking points and actually understand what the provincial auditor said. She said this is one of the biggest issues facing producers in this province, and she also said that in 50% of the cases there were not sufficient measures in place to even make an assessment of whether illegal land ownership took place, Mr. Speaker. Do better over there.
I recognize the member for Regina University.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, those well-known rumors printed in black and white in the provincial auditor's report. We are talking here about enforcing the laws that actually exist. We need to examine what is happening beforehand, but also what happens going forward. So I'd like to ask the member from Batoche again, does she even understand how foreign farmland ownership creates an unfair playing field for Saskatchewan and Canadian producers?
I recognize the member for Batoche.
I very well understand that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the question from the member opposite. You want to talk about unfair playing fields? Let's talk about the carbon tax that your side love to defend, and that's unfair to our producers on this side of the House. That's what producers in this province are most concerned about.
I recognize the member for Weyburn. Van Gogh.
To the member from Regina University, do you have any actual proof of illegal foreign land purchases in Saskatchewan?
I recognize the member for Regina University.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I mean, what I would like to see is this government do their actual job, and they're the ones that need to be investigating it. What we see right now is a system and a government that doesn't even know what's happening. Where 50% of the things reviewed, we couldn't tell what even happened. There was no proof one way or the other. Give the people that are doing the work the tools they need to enforce the laws so that we can at least find out what's happening here before we even can take some action. Hear, hear.
I recognize the member for Regina Mount Royal.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member from Cutknife Turtleford, Mr. Speaker, of course, has denied what I know producers in his riding know, and those very real concerns and those municipal officials, Mr. Speaker, on this front, by his government that's failed to act against foreign illegal ownership of land and acquisition of land, Mr. Speaker. How does the member from Cutknife defend the inaction of his government, the kid gloves that they've brought to this challenge, and selling out producers in this province?
I recognize the member for Cutknife Turtleford.
Well, thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair. I will say again, if anybody, whether they're members of Cutknife Turtleford or anywhere in the province, know of any potential foreign land ownership, bring it to the board, and the board will review it and make sure that that property is divested of. I talk to producers in my constituency all the time. I don't hear this raised at all. They are very confident. They know their neighbors. They know who owns the land. They don't see large numbers of foreign ownership in the constituency of Cutknife Turtleford. Thank you.
I recognize the member for Kindersley Bigger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the member from Regina University, do you have any actual proof of illegal foreign land purchase in Saskatchewan? Yes or no?
I recognize the member for Regina University.
Thank you very much. much, Mr. Speaker. It's fascinated me in such a short amount of time that your issues managers over there can't produce even more questions than that. Big raise. Oh.
75-minute debate period has expired.
Private members' motions. Government priority item number 1, motion to be moved by MLA Crop.
I recognize the member for Dakota Arm River.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Every family deserves certainty of a paycheck. However, in 2024, the oil and gas industry lost $1.6 billion in revenue because of a lack of a pipeline to the West Coast, a direct threat to the 26,250 families in that industry in Saskatchewan. You know, our Premier and our Saskatchewan Party government, we have been strong advocates for the pipelines as well as the trade offices in Europe and around the world, because we understand the value of supporting our families in Saskatchewan to make sure they have a strong, safe, and secure future. We have been a strong, steady voice to make sure they have that job security. We know a pipeline to the West Coast is a priority. This summer, I had the privilege, Mr. Deputy Speaker, of traveling on the Partnership of Parliaments trip. It was hosted by Germany, Austria, and the Czech Republic, and I was able to attend on that trip with members of the Legislative Assembly from Alberta as well as from here in Saskatchewan, including the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. And we learned so much together on this trip, Mr. Speaker. And some of the things that we learned from the legislators in Europe, especially in Germany, for me it was really a strong take-home message to hear them talk about how bad policy over the last 100 years in that part of Europe led to great atrocities that we're aware of. And they were committed. They told us, whether it was in their assemblies or whether it was having some adult beverages afterwards, it was a strong part of making sure they knew that they were telling us to never allow socialist and communist roots to ever take place again in that part of the world. They don't hide that. They don't run from it, Mr. Speaker, but they remember it and they make sure that it will never be repeated. And so I want to take some time, because last week there was a bit of back and forth with the member from Saskatoon Fairview, the deputy leader of the opposition. And so I want to take time to give her credit, because on the trip it was an opportunity for us to learn together, and I grew an appreciation for her wisdom. I saw her intelligence. I saw that she was very articulate in all of our meetings, and she was quite influential, and I appreciated that about us, because it was at our German trade office that we were sitting together, and we were both greatly impressed with our Saskatchewan staff in that German trade office. And so, Mr. Speaker, it was the Deputy Leader of the Opposition that, you know, we do have receipts from their last election that they are not in favor of the trade offices. However, Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, because they all now believe in our trade offices. She was influential. She was articulate enough to explain to her side of that caucus to make sure they now appreciate and understand the value of our trade offices. So I want to invite her again, Mr. Speaker, to use that same leadership to sway her caucus once again and get all of them on board to support our plans to continue pushing forward on the West Coast pipeline. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in my hometown of Estevan. It's known as the Energy City. It's the Sunshine Capital of Canada, and as our Minister of CIC has recently declared, it is the nuclear energy corridor for Saskatchewan moving forward. It is also home of the best pizza in the world at the Tower Cafe. I just need to make sure that is well known. Growing up in that energy city of oil, gas, and energy, Mr. Speaker, I played on minor hockey teams that were called the Oilers, and my baseball team was the Prairie Petrochem, and there was, in the high school parking lot, there was Mustangs and Trans Ams, and it was all because of the strong economy that the oil and gas industry provided for that community in Saskatchewan. And And I wanted some of that oil money, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to get involved in it. So my grade 11 year, I went and got a job as a swamper. And so it's the lowest rung of the oil field industry jobs, and I climbed up on top of rigs and on tanks, and I slung the chains, and I got dirty, and I was terrified of heights. And so I didn't last very long, Mr. Speaker. But what I did learn in that process was how hardworking, how innovative, how fearless and courageous the oil field industry workers are in our province. And so because I couldn't last in that job, I tried harder in the sport of hockey so that maybe I could get a paycheck there instead of out of the oil industry. But it wasn't 20 years later, my oldest son had the opportunity. The day after his high school graduation, he threw his backpack into the back of his car and he drove up to Lloydminster. And it was just outside of Lloydminster where he got involved in the oil industry as well, in the heavy crude side of things, Mr. Speaker. And he was loading in minus 40 weather and in plus 40 weather. He was loading rail cars. And those rail cars are heading down south to the United States of America. And it's that same story that is echoed across all of our families in Saskatchewan. There's 26,250 families that have those similar stories of starting at the bottom and working their way into the oil industry. They earn a paycheck in the Saskatchewan industry, Mr. Speaker. It's in the upstream part of it, in the midstream and the downstream. Those number of families are currently employed in Saskatchewan. And so growing up in the middle of the Bakken field in Estevan, I grew up playing many sticks in the basement of my buddies' houses, and I saw their parents in these tiny offices beginning to work and try to find on the maps different ways that they can drill oil more efficiently and more effectively. And they had these big dreams, Mr. Speaker. Even when oil was only at $14 a barrel, they had big dreams to keep being innovative and making a difference for their community and for our province. They helped shape our industry because, Mr. Speaker, our oil and gas industry, we produce the jurisdiction of Saskatchewan has 25% less greenhouse gas emissions from our oil production than anywhere else in the world. And that is significant, Mr. Speaker, because it shows that those families, whether they're from Estevan or Lloydminster or points in between, they continue to be innovative and strong in making sure that our families have a sustainable, low-emission greenhouse gas economy. So, Mr. Speaker, with the possibility of maybe offending Brian Zinchuk from Pipeline Online, I'm going to try and just give a quick explanation of my understanding of the oil and gas industry. We right now in 2025, the summer of 25, we produce 440,000 barrels of oil per day, and we are on target to be able to produce 600,000 barrels per day by 2030, Mr. Speaker. There's about 8 interprovincial pipelines that are minor in size, and those pipelines run across interprovincially and over to Manitoba, a bit to Alberta, mostly to the States, and also to the refinery, say in Regina or in Moose Jaw for the asphalt, or up to Lloydminster area to the refinery there. It's a good industry, Mr. Speaker. We have a great product, and we want to produce more. However, all those 8 pipelines, they're completely full to capacity. There's no more else for our oil to be going to. And so we have to find other ways to ship that. And as my son experienced in loading rail cars, the rail car industry was the route to put oil, the heavy crude. And up to 2024, Mr. Speaker, 100,000 barrels per day were shipped out of Saskatchewan in rail cars. As you can imagine, there's other products that we have here in Saskatchewan, and putting 100,000 barrels of oil into those rail cars, it maxed out our rail capacity here in the province, and it caused all kinds of problems. So as you can see, there was a huge need for pipelines to be built. So roughly around the 2010 era, there was all kinds of talk about pipelines and making sure that pipelines could get built east and west, and finding pathways to do that. And with the talk of that, it excited the industry. There was all of a sudden shops being built, and there was all of a sudden jobs opening because companies were beginning to drill the oil that was in the ground again and bring that up to be able to ship it, because now there's going to be capacity to do that, not just on rail cars, but in actual pipelines. New jobs that were being created. In fact, the Energy East pipeline was 2/3 completed. The pipe's in the ground 2/3 of the way there. And the federally supported NDP government supported the Liberal government to ban that pipeline 2/3 of the way into the process, Mr. Speaker. It killed the momentum. Jobs fled to the United States of America, and no certainty was here anymore because of such bad policy. And certainty is what we need in that industry. In order for companies to invest those billions of dollars into pipelines, they need to know that they're going to have certainty for that. So Kinder Morgan, they looked at it and they said, you know what, there's no more certainty with that coalition. We cannot trust it anymore. And so they backed out of it. And our only option, Mr. Speaker, moving forward then, was to take our oil and continue to ship it to one customer, one and only customer, and that was to the United States on rail. And in order for us to do that, we had to sell it at a discount, shameful discount that we had to offer. Our oil, our hard-worked, our innovative, our sustainable oil was shipped to the States at a discount. Why? Because there's only one customer. As any business person would know, if you've only got one customer to sell your product to, they get to dictate the price. They get to set it. Doesn't matter what the market says, they tell you what they're going to pay for that. Take it or leave it. And so it's not that we had bad oil. It's not that oil expired or that we didn't have enough rail cars to ship it in. It was just that we had them as our one customer. So why does the United States want our oil? Well, they take 65% of our heavy crude. It's not because they don't have their own oil, Mr. Speaker. They take our heavy crude, and they've built the refineries in the States, in the southern part of the States. The factories that do that, it's only to do heavy crude. It's not to use their light crude. It's to take our heavy crude and make their gasoline, to make their diesel, to make their aviation fuel, to make their byproducts out of it, and extract the maximum dollar that they can out of that processing while paying us at the minimum, that $20 reduction per barrel. And Mr. Speaker, they have a higher need for that. And so what they do is they take then some of our light crude, and they also take the light crude that they produce in, say, Texas, and they pull that, you know, the light crude is sort of like it's like pancake syrup. It's, you know, it's smooth flowing, it's, you know, lighter, and they're able to put it into their pipeline, and they're able to put it into a tanker, and they're able to take it and sell it overseas, Mr. Speaker, to a world market because they have tidewater for that light crude. And with that, Mr. Speaker, the difference, they get maximum value out of that light crude while paying a minimum on ours. That arbitrage, they take billions of dollars in arbitrage on that transaction, Mr. Speaker, and that produces more roads for them, more schools, more hospitals, more jobs for the United States of America. And it leaves Saskatchewan with no choice because we don't have a pipeline to Tidewater. And so a bad Liberal policy that had bad planning created less opportunities for Western Canadian families. And then we saw Liberal arrogance. The Liberal arrogance stepped into the scene and they said, you know what? We're really good at building pipelines. Even though they've never built one, they said, we're really good at it. And in fact, our bureaucrats are awesome at it. So we're going to take a stab at this and we're going to build that pipeline to the coast just to keep the Westerners happy. And so they got involved in the oil industry. They went to Kinder Morgan and they said, we'll buy your assets. We'll give you $4.5 billion of tax money, even though you don't really have much there. We'll take it and we'll build that pipeline. When Kinder Morgan was going to build that TMX pipeline, it was going to cost $7.5 billion max. $7.5 billion. But because of bad policy and bad planning, the Liberal government stepped in and they built it for 5 times that amount, Mr. Speaker. $34 billion to build that pipeline on our tax dollars. What I say to that, Mr. Speaker, is we need to make sure that we let industry, the innovators of the industry, do the work that they are good at. But, however, Mr. Speaker, I will take a step back and I will say thank you, because we do have a pipeline that's now completed. In May 1st of 2024, the TMX pipeline was completed. It hits the shores just south of Burnaby in British Columbia, and it gets our oil to Tidewater and allows us to get to other world markets. And our premier, when this happened in May 1st, 2024, and the switch got turned on for that pipeline, he said, this is energy security for Canada among the U.S. tariff mess. While the NDP said this is just a fossil fuel bailout. Mr. Speaker, Here's what we got with that turning on of that TMX pipeline. No more $20 discounted oil to the United States of America. We are now able to get our products to the world market because our oil is ethical, and it's the world markets that want our ethical oil. Those low greenhouse gas emissions, that's what they desire. They want that from us. And so that is a win for our 26,000 plus families here in Saskatchewan to be able to do that. It gives us market certainty. Investments have all of a sudden spiked in that part of the world, Mr. Speaker, in terms of wanting to get our oil, and oil companies here in Saskatchewan have then been able to create jobs and secure jobs for families here. The great news, Mr. Speaker, is that 90% of that pipeline is now full. Just like the other 8 pipelines that we've had for decades and having moved oil interprovincially down to the States, that brand new pipeline that's 18 months old right now is 90% full, and as we continue to put our great product into it, it's going to be maximized. Probably it already is if we go and look at the numbers. And so, Mr. Speaker, what we need to do is take the oil that was on the rail cars and put it into that pipeline, and what that will do is it will free up rail cars. Because, Mr. Speaker, as we've heard from our trade offices, they're doing a great job around the world because we have other great products here in Saskatchewan. We have lumber, we have canola, we have potash, and those you can't put into a pipeline. We have to put those on rail cars. And on those rail cars, Mr. Speaker, they will be able to get to the world markets. So not only now are we putting 1 million barrels per day into that pipeline to get to the coast, we're now also being able to take all the other products that are grown here in Saskatchewan, produced here in Saskatchewan, and processed. And CN and CP that used to have absolute maximum capacity on their rail lines, they're loving it because with our 100,000 barrels per day that we used to ship on rail cars, with that TMX pipeline at capacity, we're now only using 50,000 barrels in the rail cars. And what does that add up to? That's 1,000 more rail cars in Saskatchewan per day that we can put our product onto to get to market. That is exciting news, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the 90% capacity is a little bit scary because it feels like now we're back at 2010. What are we going to do? We can't just, it's not just a matter of pushing a button in a computer game and creating a pipeline. It's going to take time. It's going to take some great planning. And so we are in the process. We've signed a memorandum of understanding. The Premier, along with Alberta and Ontario, have signed a memorandum of understanding to make sure that we're working and kicking the can down the road on that Energy East pipeline. But we need certainty. Our producers, our oil and gas industry needs certainty. And so with that pipeline that we can build to the West Coast with certainty, Mr. Speaker, here's what it will give us. No more discount. Right now we started with a $20 discount to the States. Now we're at about a $10 discount that we have to offer it. With a full secondary line, there will be no discount. Our producers in Saskatchewan who give us great jobs for our 26,000 families, they will be able to have cost certainty. And that is a significant part because when they can make that production and not give a discount on the price of their oil, it's more jobs for our Saskatchewan families, it's more schools, it's more hospitals, and it's more security for the future of families here in our province. Secondly, that new pipeline, the doubling of it, will get us our 100-plus year supply to markets faster, and it gives us another 1,000 rail cars that we can use for our other products here in Saskatchewan. So I just want to read into the record, Mr. Speaker, some wild ideas that are against this plan to get that pipeline doubled up. The NDP wants you to think that this pipeline is their idea. However, Mr. Speaker, the Saskatchewan government has driven this mandate for over 18 years. We have driven the mandate of our trade offices, we have driven the mandate of pipeline expansion, and we have been a steady voice of leadership in the nation. The opposition has the following track record. We put forward a motion, and it said all parties to unite in support of the Keystone XL pipeline. This NDP stood up in this chamber and voted against it. Yeah, they sure did. 2 years later, Mr. Speaker, we put forward another motion to build the Northern Gateway pipeline as approved by the National Energy Board, to which the NDP stood in this very chamber and once again said no. Yeah. History to show you even further how out of touch they are on the pipelines, the MLA from Saskatoon-Nutana on CKOM radio, when asked where do you stand on the need for pipelines She responded with this: "The global oil and gas market is undergoing a massive shift, which is making our domestic market less competitive. Instead of pipelines, we should be building an east-west electricity grid." Mr. Speaker, how out of touch can they possibly be? I started, Mr. Speaker, with a recognition at the beginning of my speech, with a recognition to the Deputy Leader of the NDP, and I acknowledged her wisdom. I acknowledged how articulate she was and that she's an influencer among her peers on that side of the House. She was able to influence her caucus to be able to agree that our Sask Party trade offices are a great idea. And so now we have a new dilemma. We have this new dilemma of needing a new pipeline to go to the West Coast. And obviously, to everyone on her side, they still have a problem with that idea. So I'm asking the Deputy Leader, can she use her leadership skills? Can she help the Sask Party government to convince her colleagues to get on board with the West Coast pipeline expansion? We need to help Saskatchewan families. Will they be willing to help oil and gas industry? Will they be willing to help the world get more out of what Saskatchewan produces? Can you get them to support that motion, Mrs. Deputy Leader? So I move the motion that this Assembly call upon the government of Saskatchewan to support the development of a new Canadian pipeline to carry Saskatchewan and Alberta oil to the west coast of Canada. Mr. Speaker, Saskatchewan families need this pipeline. Can the Deputy Leader of the Opposition get her caucus to support this motion, or will they vote against families and pipelines once again?
Recognize the member from Batoche.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to echo the comments of my colleague, the member from Dakota Arm River. With that, I adjourn debate.
Okay. I recognize the member from Regina Douglas Park.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm not sure, forgive me, but I'd ask that you check Hansard. I'm not sure if the member actually moved a motion at the end of his remarks.
He did not. No, he did not.
I recognize the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We can certainly have the member read back his script, but the motion was in the final couple of paragraphs of his comments.
It has been moved by the member from Dakota Arm River that this Assembly call upon the Government of Saskatchewan to support the development of a new Canadian pipeline to carry Saskatchewan and Alberta oil to the west coast of Canada. Is the Assembly ready for the question? I recognize the member from Batoche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to echo the comments of my colleague, the member from Dakota Arm River. With that, I adjourn debate.
It has been moved that this Assembly do now adjourn. No? Yes? No. Members move to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried. I recognize the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. I move that this Assembly do now adjourn.
It's been moved that this Assembly do now adjourn. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt this motion? Carried. This Assembly now stands adjourned until Wednesday, November 12th at 1:30 p.m.